Chapter 693, Mission Complete. Chapter 693, Mission Complete. Jian Wushuang killed Hu on his own. The evil scarlet-haired youth had been hiding near the castle for so long that he had witnessed everything happen in it. If he had not seen that with his own eyes, he would never believe that a skyscraping realm expert could kill a superior divine realm expert. Though Hu has suffered a sneak attack from Jian Wushuang before, he recovered by taking elixir, therefore. It's amazing that Jian Wushuang could kill him. No wonder the disciples and palace masters said that Jian Wushuang was a monster. He is indeed mighty. There is no need for Xian Yi to have me here. The youth shook his head while thinking. The ancient sect is capable of obtaining all kinds of intelligence, especially in the area under its jurisdiction. Who had his dirty businesses hidden quite well, but the ancient sect still found them. Therefore, the sect must have also learned of his power before releasing the mission. And that's why the words reporting that Hu is likely a superior divine realm expert was included in his portrait. However, Xian Yi removed those words from the file after he received it on purpose. The youth analyzed in secret, and then he decided to send a message to Xian Yi. Palace Master Xian Yi, Jian Wushuang has killed Hu on his own. Immediately he got a reply from him. Okay, I got it. Come back now. The youth shrugged. Xian Yi intentionally gave Jian Wushuang an opponent who was a superior divine realm expert, but also asked me to protect this disciple in secret. How careful he is! The youth complained as he headed back. After killing Hu, Jian Wushuang found a quiet place to regain his spiritual power. He glanced over the treasures in Hu's interspatial ring. I have to say that these treasures are really out of the ordinary. Having been a local tyrant for so long, Hu is wealthier than most superior divine realm experts. Though those treasures are worth 340,000 pieces of divine gems, a few may be useful to me. After a brief appraisal of the treasures, Jian Wushuang returned to the ancient sect. 3 days later, he arrived at the sect, and the first thing he did after he returned was to see his master. Master, I'm back. He stood before Xian Yi and said respectfully, You've completed your mission? Xian Yi looked at him with a faint smile. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded and waved his hand. A pile of corpses immediately appeared lying on the ground. All the 11 targets, including 6 medium divine realm experts and 5 superior ones, have been killed, and these are their bodies. Xian Yi looked at the bodies with a cold eye. Did things go on well? He asked casually. Yes, except that it took me a lot of effort to kill Hu. Jian Wushuang answered honestly. Oh. Xian Yi glanced at him with a slight nod. Anyway, you've completed the mission successfully, and this is proof of your power. I'll make an application to help you enter the Eternal Zone. Thank you, Master. Jian Wushuang expressed his gratitude. Then go. Xian Yi waved his hand. Jian Wushuang immediately turned away. Xian Yi watched his back with a meaningful smile. He managed to kill a superior divine realm expert, and yet he mentioned no word about that to me. Should it be that he didn't take Hu seriously at all, or is he trying to hide his power from others? After returning to Enlightenment Mountain, Jian Wushuang continued cultivating. As time went by, the opening date of the Eternal Zone drew near. Finally, 3 days before the opening, the ancient sect released a name list of those who could enter the Eternal Zone. Every time the zone was opened, the 3 magnates and 9 top sects would have their young disciples, who should also have reached the divine realm, adventure in it. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Besides, there was a certain rule about how many people each sect could dispatch to the zone. For example, the 3 magnates could send 10. As for the 9 top sects, it was 6. Though the ancient sect was even greater than the 3 magnates in some ways, rules were rules, so the sect could only send 6 disciples there, and they were Lu Chong, Situ Yi Luo Yong, Donger, Feng and Jian Wushuang. There was no need to say how powerful Feng was. After all, he was the personal disciple of the palace master destruction and had improved his power by much in these years, with likelihood of becoming an advanced divine realm expert and reaching the eternal realm. No one was surprised at his being able to enter. Luo Yong and Donger were the most outstanding disciples among their peers before Jian Wushuang, and Feng joined the sect. Having reached the divine realm and mastering some powerful secret skills, their future was as promising as Feng's. Therefore, it was reasonable that they were on the list. As for Lu Chong and Situ Yi, they had entered the sect for more than 100 years and could not be called youngsters, but they were both talented and had missed the chance to get into the zone last time. In view of this, their names were put on the list as well. Among the two, Situ Yi was in the advanced divine realm, but he had reached the highest level and was more powerful than Feng, Luo Yong, and Donger. Lu Chong, who was also on the list, was a real superior divine realm expert, in fact. Those 5 people were mighty and had a lot potential, and their qualification was beyond all doubt. However, Jian Wushuang was different to them. He was just in the skyscraping realm, and there had never been anyone in the skyscraping realm adventuring in the eternal zone before. His name on the list confused many others. Chapter 694, Xian Yi's Exhortations. Chapter 694, Xian Yi's Exhortations. In a vacant area in the Dao Palace was a table, where Jian Wushuang, Feng Huaying, Bingshan, Xianing, and Wu Huang were sitting. Because they were all from the ancient world and had been brought into the ancient sect by Xian Yi at the same time, they were always gathered together to enjoy drinking wine and chatting. From time to time, some disciples went passing by those 6, and most of them would also cast their eyes on Jian Wushuang while talking in a low voice. It's incredible that Jian Wushuang, a skyscraping realm disciple, can get into the eternal zone at this time. Yeah. Have you ever seen anyone in that realm succeed in completing an earth-level task? No. Even I, having reached the divine realm a long time ago, would not accept such a task. The first time the sect announced that Jian Wushuang could go into the eternal zone, there was a lot of doubt if he was qualified to do so. But soon after that, when those skeptics learned that he had completed an extremely hard earth-level task, they shut up. After all, in this world, the stronger one could talk louder. Generally, the tasks at the earth level should be assigned to advanced divine realm experts, and it was always uncertain if they could complete them. That is to say, anyone who could complete them was at least no weaker than those advanced experts. That being said, Jian Wushuang's power and talent were beyond doubt. Listen, Jian Wushuang, there are so many people talking about you, Huaying said to him with a smile. It has been 8 years since we 6 entered the sect, and now the best ones among us are you and Feng. Bingshan echoed in a tone of admiration. I'm no match for him. Feng shook his head at those words while looking toward Jian Wushuang. He had lost all his desire to catch up to him because he knew that this man had made it to the 30th floor of 9th Heaven Road in the sect competition. He had been left far behind, and he knew that himself. Hold it, guys. Let's just enjoy drinking. Jian Wushuang grinned while holding up his cup of wine. While the other 4 were drinking, Feng and Jian Wushuang suddenly paused. The former looked at the latter and asked, You have also received a message, haven't you? Yeah, it's time to go now. Jian Wushuang nodded and then turned to the other 4. Guys, Feng and I got it to go now. Please enjoy your time, even without us. Huaying replied to them with concern. Okay, I heard that the eternal zone is quite dangerous. Please take care and good luck to both of you. We will, and thank you. Jian Wushuang and Feng rose up and headed out. Swish, swish. Jian Wushuang and Feng arrived in front of the huge wormhole in the ancient sect at the same time, and soon afterward Lu Chong, Siddhi Luo Yong, and Donger arrived as well. Are you Jian Wushuang? Asked a man dressed in purple with a ferocious aura, looking at Jian Wushuang. That man was Situ Yi. He wore a gentle smile despite his aura. Finally, I can see the great genius of our sect with my own eyes. Jian Wushuang returned his smile. He could tell that he was an outgoing man. Being a striking contrast to that man, Lu Chong, a red-haired youth, looked quite indifferent. At that moment, he was also looking at Jian Wushuang, and his eyes full of a strange feeling met with his. This boy, he could not help thinking. The others only know that he finished an Earth-level task. They don't know that he has also killed a superior divine realm expert. Lu Chong was the exact man who had taken Xian Yi's order to keep Jian Wushuang safe in secret. By that chance, he had witnessed how Jian Wushuang had killed Hu Hu. Thus, he knew Jian Wushuang better than the others did. Jian Wushuang. The youth finally spoke out. A question has confused me for quite a while. In terms of your cultivation in the Tao, you should have reached the divine realm. So why are you still stuck in the skyscraping realm? This question aroused the interest of the other four as well. They all looked at Jian Wushuang, waiting for his answer. It was true that Jian Wushuang was powerful enough to break through to the divine realm. Well, for some time, Jian Wushuang could not find any more words to answer the question. Right then, several whooshing sounds reached them along with some figures. Of these 8 newcomers, 7 of them were masters of the Tao Palace, including Palace Master Mo Tao, Palace Master Baiyu, and Palace Master Destruction, who is also Feng's master. The Vice Master of the Sword Palace, Ling Yu, was also among them. The Eternal Zone was a place of great opportunities, and the disciples of the sects would have adventures in its outer layer, while those experts who had reached the Eternal Realm would try their luck in its inner layer. Everyone has arrived. Let's go. Just as Palace Master Destruction gave the order, the wormhole in front of them was immediately activated. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and waited for the journey to being. And right at that moment, he surprisingly received a message from his master, Xian Yi. Wushuang, you're on your way to the Eternal Zone, but remember that you must be careful after you get there. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded. Xian Yi then continued with a laughing voice. Look, besides the danger that lies in the zone, you should also watch your back when dealing with the people from the 3 magnates and other sections. Why? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Why did Master say this to me? At that point, he was suddenly hit by an idea. There are always competitions between all the sections. Could it be that they all want to eliminate the geniuses of other sects with this chance? He had experienced such kind of things before, so he was able to figure it out quickly. Master, I'll be careful and remember every single word you said, Jian Wushuang replied. In the Eternal Zone, all connections with the outside are cut. No message can leave there. Therefore, even if you really run into danger someday, I can't be there for you in time, so you'll be all on your own, Xian Yi added. I understand, Master. Jian Wushuang nodded again. Let's set off now. Palace Master Destruction's voice interrupted their conversation. Jian Wushuang immediately walked into the wormhole with the others. Chapter 695, Demon God Clan. Chapter 695, Demon God Clan. On the way to the Eternal Zone, Vice Palace Masterling, you traveled side by side with the 6 disciples. Since the 6 of you haven't been there before, you must have no idea of what kind of place it is. But don't worry, I'll tell you, she said to them. The 6 of them immediately gave their full attention to her. They knew nothing about the Eternal Zone except that it was a dangerous place. The Master started to describe the place to them. The first thing you should know about it is that it's totally different from the Firmament territory. A very special and indigenous species lives there, which is called the Demon God Clan. The Demon God Clan. Those 6 seemed surprised when hearing that name for the first time. Judging by the clan's name, they could tell it had to be an unusual group. In fact, the members of this clan are normal human beings at birth. However, as they grow older, they get baptized by demon gods and then become one of them as well. Their power also rockets to a new level. Following that is a huge change to their bodies. After becoming demon gods, they get divided into 3 groups based on the density of their blood: copper-armored demon gods, silver-armored demon gods, and gold-armored demon gods. The first one is the weakest kind, and the last one is the most powerful. All of you should know that both our opportunities and nightmares are hidden inside them. The master paused for a while before continuing. Those opportunities mean the following 3 things exactly. First, the essence blood of the demon gods. After you kill one demon god, you can refine his body into pure essence blood, but the amount you can extract from the 3 kinds of bodies is not the same. For example, a copper-armored demon god's body can be refined into only 1 single drop of essence blood. That will be 2 drops in the case of a silver-armored demon god's body, and 3 drops for a gold-armored demon god's body. You may want to ask me what kind of use we can make of that essence blood. I'll answer that later. Let's move on to the second opportunity. Second, the ancient god's secret skill. The words caused the 6 disciples to raise their heads in amazement. Created by the demon god clan, this skill can greatly increase the user's offensive power in a short time. Aside from Jian Wushuang, the rest of you have all practiced some similar secret skills, right? Feng, Lu Chong, Situ Yi, Luoyong, and Dong all nodded. Though Jian Wushuang had not practiced any secret skill yet, he did know what the master was talking about. Back when he was carrying out the Earth-level task, all his targets at that time had practiced those kinds of skills. Bing Ji, one of those targets, had demonstrated an offensive power that was 5 times stronger than it had been before by displaying the skill while fighting him. Who had even managed to increase it to 8 times stronger. Therefore, this kind of secret skill was somehow very common among the divine realm experts. The only difference was how much one could improve his power by using the skill. Talented as Jian Wushuang was, he still could not study the skill until he reached the divine realm. There are various kinds of secret skills in our sect and other sects, you know. The master continued, and no matter whether they are at higher or lower levels, they can improve one's power by 10 times at best. The same is also true of those skills that the 3 magnates and top sects have. 10 times is the limitation. But different from all those skills, the secret skill that the Demon God clan possesses can break that limitation. What? The 6 of them could not help being astonished at those words, especially the 5 who had learned some secret skills. They had long believed that secret skills could only improve their power by no more than 10 times. It indeed is true that their secret skill can produce such a magical effect. As far as I know, the first 5 levels of the skill can increase one's power by 15 times. The master's words caused Jian Wushuang's pupils to suddenly shrink. 15 times, he exclaimed to himself. If what the master said is true, this secret skill is indeed invaluable. He felt thrilled at the idea of releasing a power 10 times greater than a normal warrior could when fighting an opponent in the same realm. It would be really amazing. If I can study and practice this skill, I'll be much more powerful and can gain an advantage over my opponents. All the experts in our territory want to get this skill and hope that they can practice it to a high level after getting it. However, the Demon God clan has kept it away from others quite well, aside from Cloud Sea Asgard obtaining the first 5 levels of it, while the other 2 magnates and our sect have gotten the first 4 levels. But still, the first 4 levels can increase one's power by 12 times. The master's voice echoed again. On hearing this, all 6 of them let out gasps in admiration. Chapter 696, A Powerful Gathering. Chapter 696, A Powerful Gathering. Vice Palace Master Lingyu, according to you, my ancient sect possesses the techniques of the first 4 levels of the ancient god secret skill. But why have I never seen them in the secret skill pavilion, nor seen experts from my sect displaying them? Lu Chong asked, frowning. The others nodded their heads in agreement. If the ancient sect indeed possessed these techniques, then surely they would have been given to the disciples to cultivate. Yet, nobody had heard of any disciple cultivating the secret skill, which could boost one's offensive power by up to 12 times. Let me refer to the opportunity one just mentioned, the demon god essence blood, Lingyu began to explain. The ancient god secret skill originated from the demon god clan, and that's why even though it's powerful, it's apparently only suitable for the demon god clansmen to cultivate. For us human warriors to cultivate this secret skill, we have to consume demon god essence blood. By consuming demon god essence blood, we gain the trace of demon god bloodline it contains, which will enable us to cultivate the ancient god secret skill. More demon god essence blood will be needed to cultivate the ancient god secret skill to the highest level. Under normal circumstances, the first 4 levels of the ancient god secret skill will only require 10 drops of demon god essence blood to cultivate. But it ain't simple to obtain the essence blood, for demon gods have to be hunted down and killed. That's why few in the firmament territory have truly been able to cultivate up to the 4th level. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang and company began to understand. According to the Vice Palace Master, killing 1 copper-armored demon god would grant only 1 drop of demon god essence blood, which meant that 10 of them would have to be killed to obtain 10 drops. However, these demon gods are powerful and certainly not easy to kill. Apart from being a requirement for the cultivation of the ancient god secret skill, consuming the demon god essence blood will greatly strengthen one's body. After all, the demon god clansmen's strongest aspect is their bodies. The more essence blood absorbed, the more powerful one's body will become, Lingyu said. Jian Wushuang and company nodded silently. They finally understood the true uses of the demon god essence blood. The first was to cultivate the ancient god secret skill, while the second was to strengthen their bodies. The last thing I have to tell you about is the 3rd greatest opportunity in the Eternal Zone, the demon god baptismal pool, which also originates from the demon god clan. Lingyu continued, however, it's useless to y'all for the time being and cannot be obtained in the outer layer, and so I shan't elaborate on it. All in all, during your future adventures in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone, try your best to hunt down and kill demon gods, and find ways to obtain as much demon god essence blood as possible. It's the only opportunity you can obtain in the outer layer. Feng, Lu Chong, and the others nodded upon hearing this. Though only the demon god essence blood was obtainable, it would be of an astonishing benefit to them and was indeed a great opportunity. But Jian Wushuang could not help frowning. Based on what Vice Palace Master Lingyu said, the Eternal Zone is the demon god clan's home, where they've always lived and never been oppressive toward human warriors in any way. Yet, because of the great attraction that their essence blood and ancient god secret skill pose for human warriors, the various sects of the firmament territory, upon the opening of the Eternal Zone every 100 years, would charge in and hunt down these demon gods. This is what has been going on. Though the demon god clansmen could not be considered humans, they were also earthly creatures after all. Furthermore, what separated them from demonic and spirit beasts was the fact that they had always lived in their own home without ever antagonizing human warriors. Jian Wushuang was by no means a kind person. On the contrary, a countless number of people have already died at his hands ever since he began his cultivation. His actions had all along been dictated by what his heart fancied. He was now somewhat displeased and even disgusted by the actions of the various sects of the firmament territory. Yet, ironically, he was among the people who would enter the Eternal Zone this time. There's no hurry. Let's go to the Eternal Zone and see how the demon god clansmen are like first. If they're of an evil and cruel nature, I'll be fine with killing them. But if that's not the case, we shall see, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. The party continued on their journey for some time and only stopped when they arrived in an ancient forest. In the middle of this ancient forest, there were many figures already in wait. These were the experts and disciples from the other top sects who had arrived long before. Every time the Eternal Zone opened, The top sects were each allowed to send in 6 disciples, while the 3 magnates were each allowed 10 disciples. Though there was a quota imposed on disciples, there was no such limit on the experts who had attained the eternal realm. Regardless of which sect they were from, an eternal realm expert could enter the eternal zone so long as they wished to. That was why an extremely large number of experts entered the eternal zone every time it opened. There were 8 eternal realm experts from the ancient sect alone, while the other top sects, particularly the 3 magnates, provided similar numbers. The overall strength and class of the 3 magnates were comfortably superior to those of the other top sections. Take the ancient sect, for instance. Its total number of eternal realm experts did not exceed 20. By contrast, each of the 3 magnates had more than 40 eternal realm experts, more than twice what the ancient sect had. Naturally, the more eternal realm experts a sect possessed, the more experts it would send to venture into the eternal zone. There were hence a dozen or more eternal realm experts sent by each of the 3 magnates. The many eternal realm experts and the divine realm disciples were gathered together, silently watching their surroundings. Jian Wushuang too began to look around, sweeping his gaze across the experts and disciples sent by the 3 magnates. As he did so, he could sense many veiled gazes directed back at him. Many of these gazes came from people of the other top sections. It seems that I'm still kinda popular. Smiling faintly, he nevertheless remained on high vigilance. He could discern that some of these gazes harbored malintent, and most crucially, there were a few among them who were very powerful and could be considered a threat to him. Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Shui Guzi, why these peeps? What madness is this from the cloud, sea Asgard? Lu Chong suddenly exclaimed. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang and company peered sideways at Lu Chong. Look, among the cloud, sea Asgard's 10 disciples. There are 3 of them whose auras are extremely powerful and who have already attained the superior divine realm level. Lu Chong lowered his voice and spoke. Chapter 697, A Reunion with Gong Chao. Chapter 697, A Reunion with Gong Chao. Spotted. Jian Wushuang turned his sights toward Cloud, sea Asgard's contingent, and nodded his head gently. He had long noticed the aforementioned trio, who each exerted immense pressure on him and were obviously superior divine realm experts. I know all 3 of them. They're the most outstanding disciples of Cloud Sea Asgard, especially Wu Dao, whom I have traded blows with. Unfortunately, I lost terribly in that fight. He's considered to be one of the most powerful among the superior divine realm experts, and is comparable to the vice palace masters of Dao Palace. Lu Chong spoke in a deep voice. And the 3 of them are considered within Cloud Sea Asgard to be disciples of the previous generation. Though they haven't been to the Eternal Zone before, Cloud Sea Asgard has all along prioritized developing a new generation of disciples, and so for one disciple of the previous generation to come to the Eternal Zone would have been noteworthy. Why would 3 of them come at the same time? Odd. Lu Chong was somewhat puzzled. Jian Wushuang, however, squinted his eyes delicately upon hearing this. He lifted his head and took a glance at the trio. They were among those he had noticed directing veiled gazes at him. He began to suspect that the trio might have come for him. Of course, this was only a suspicion which he could not confirm. As he continued to ponder to himself, a figure from Cloud Sea Asgard's contingent charged toward him all of a sudden. Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked toward the direction which the voice came from, and instantly saw a purple-robed youth who carried a stone cudgel on his back, standing in front of him. Ha, Gong Chao. Jian Wushuang revealed a smile upon recognizing the arriver. The purple-robed youth was Gong Chao, the super genius who impressively clinched first place in the Firmament Territory Feast 8 years back. Jian Wushuang had fought with him during the feast, but lost because he held back much of his strength. However, later on, during the 4th round of the Cultivation Age test, he became the definition of a monster and completely stole the limelight from the latter. In the end, he joined the ancient sect together with Shen Yi, whereas Gong Chao went over to Cloud Sea Asgard. 8 years had passed. The two geniuses who put in the most dazzling performances during the Firmament Territory Feast were once again reunited. However, by this time, Gong Chao had already attained the Divine Realm, whereas Jian Wushuang had still only attained the Skyscraping Realm. We haven't met for 8 years. Do you still remember what I said to you during the Firmament Territory Feast? Gong Chao regarded Jian Wushuang with his gleaming eyes. Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. I said that I would fight for superiority with you the next time we meet. 8 years have passed. Gong Chao paused before continuing. During these 8 years, I've done everything possible to increase my strength, while always looking forward to the day we meet again. That day has finally arrived. What do you want to do? Jian Wushuang laughed faintly as he looked at Gong Chao, who was a genius he quite appreciated. You know the answer. As Gong Chao raised his head to look at Jian Wushuang, a gush of battle intent shot out of his eyes. Jian Wushuang, let's fight. Gong Chao deliberately raised his voice as he uttered that last sentence, causing the experts and disciples from the various sects to quickly look over. Their expressions got weird when they saw that Gong Chao had approached Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang from Ancient Sect and Gong Chao from Cloud Sea Asgard. These two were the most outstanding performers during the last Firmament Territory Feast. During the last Firmament Territory Feast, Jian Wushuang was defeated by Gong Chao, and so by right it should be him issuing the challenge this time. Who would have thought that Gong Chao would be the one to propose instead? It's normal, although Jian Wushuang lost during the Firmament Territory Feast. He displayed a lot more exceptional talent than Gong Chao, and later on his extraordinary performances in the Ancient Sect led Palace Master Gong Yi to take him in as a personal disciple. Gong Chao probably knows that Jian Wushuang is no weaker than him and may even be stronger, and that's why he proposed the challenge. Many of the experts standing around the two geniuses were busy in their private discussions. And when the experts from the Ancient Sect and Cloud Sea Asgard saw what was happening, they simply exchanged looks and showed no sign of preventing it. It was an open secret that the two sects had long enjoyed a rivalry. Thus, neither side thought much about a duel between their disciples, so long as it was not a life-and-death battle. Jian Wushuang, you won't refuse this duel, right? Gong Chao looked at Jian Wushuang and spoke solemnly. Of course. I can tell that you haven't attained the Divine Realm, and so, for fairness' sake, I shall hold back my strength and not exert anything beyond the scope of the Skyscraping Realm. How about that? Hold back your strength deliberately? Jian Wushuang could not help laughing as he looked at Gong Chao, whose battle intent was surging. You don't have to do that. Just come at me with all you've got. Are you sure? Gong Chao's complexion darkened. Of course, a very confident Jian Wushuang replied. All right, watch out. Without delay, the stone cudgel, which Gong Chao carried on his back, appeared in his hands. A vast aura gushed from his body and formed a strange suppressive force which charged toward Jian Wushuang. Gong Chao, over these 8 years, his strength has indeed increased considerably. Jian Wushuang looked indifferent. Gong Chao was a true genius. After 8 years of cultivation in Cloud Sea Asgard, which was the Firmament Territory's premier sect, he was by now at least no weaker, and most likely already stronger than Feng. Let's begin. As soon as Gong Chao spoke, his figure disappeared and reappeared right in front of Jian Wushuang, following which the stone cudgel struck out mercilessly. All that could be seen in the void was a thick black shadow which seemed to be formed from a bunch of overlapping cudgel shadows. A brutal power immediately swept forth. An advanced divine realm expert, who's probably the best among his realm. Jian Wushuang was able to gauge Gong Chao's strength at the very instant that the latter made a move. The long sword behind his back immediately appeared in his hands. This was the heart-killing sword. As for the Emperor's sword, Jian Wushuang kept it in an interspatial ring and did not draw on it. With a long sword in his hands, the sword heart in his sea of consciousness shook gently. In an instant, Jian Wushuang was able to summon 50% of the sword heart's power. 50% of the sword heart's power should be about enough. Squinting his eyes, the long sword in his hands swept forth at the very next moment. Clang! The tip of the heart-killing sword collided with the front of the stone cudgel, creating a low-pitched noise. With a twist of his wrist, Jian Wushuang pulled back the sword and casually swung it once more. It swept toward Gong Chao's chest in a smooth motion that caused Gong Chao's complexion to change dramatically. Terrifying skill. Although shocked, Gong Chao remained composed as he forcefully drew back the stone cudgel and struck out once more. With a faint smile, Jian Wushuang abruptly lowered the long sword and easily evaded contact with the stone cudgel. The tip of his long sword then flitted in a ghost-like fashion as it swung toward Gong Chao's throat at lightning speed. Chapter 698, Concealment. Chapter 698, Concealment. That was fast. Gong Chao's complexion had turned completely grim when the next moment a yin-yang power rose from his body. His yin-yang Dao and thunderbolt Dao burst out completely. His cudgel then made successive swings, of which some were lightning fast and extremely powerful, while some were gentle and weak. The two Daos combined and were exerted in perfection. Gong Chao's staff technique was extraordinarily exquisite. Although his understanding of Dao was certainly not the best, the power he was able to showcase when he fully exerted his Daos was definitely a lot greater than that of many advanced divine realm experts. But what about Jian Wushuang? He instead put on a perfect display of his swordsmanship. It was a whole lot more exquisite than Gong Chaos staff technique. Although he did not exert as much strength as the latter, he could count on his swordsmanship to perfectly withstand the staff technique, which combined yin and yang. On occasion, his offensive strokes would even cause Gong Chao great discomfort. One glance was all it took to see that Jian Wushuang held the upper hand, even if it was but a small advantage. And this was only because he was deliberately holding back the greater part of his strength. Up till this point, he had only summoned up half of the sword heart's power and had not drawn on the Emperor's sword at all. There are many people around, and among them are quite a few who harbor malintent toward me. My coming journey in the Eternal Zone will be very dangerous, such that death is a real possibility. Every bit of my strength that I'm able to conceal may prove decisive. Although Jian Wushuang appeared to be sparing no efforts in his duel with Gong Chao, he was actually being extremely discreet. In his heart, he was utterly clear about the matter. Many of the experts from these sects were likely to be targeting him. It would be as good as courting death to reveal all of his trump cards during this fight. Therefore, he concealed as much as he could of his strength. Of course, he could not be too discreet, or otherwise suspicions might arise. After all, news that he completed Earth-level tasks in the Divine Palace had long spread, proving that he definitely possessed strength on the level of the advanced Divine Realm. He therefore displayed skill on the level of said realm, and only gained a slight advantage in the duel because his swordsmanship was somewhat superior to his opponent's staff technique. Bam! 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 A series of violent roars sounded. As if backed into a corner, Gong Chao found an opportunity to step back and began to summon his trump card move. Jian Wushuang, watch out! The stone cudgel in his hands struck out at the very instant that he spoke. The air was completely suppressed in an instant, as a massive stream of overlapping cudgel shadows surged directly toward Jian Wushuang. In terms of power, this had clearly reached the threshold of a rank for secret skill. Violet Calamity Sword Skill. Jian Wushuang too began to exert his trump card move. A bright purple light began to shine. What captured everyone's attention as soon as it was displayed was a sword move of absolute beauty and world-destroying power. It was obvious that Jian Wushuang's Violet Calamity Sword skill was the much stronger secret skill. After all, his cultivation of sword principle was so high that this sword skill had already attained the level of a top-level 4 secret skill. However, the contact force of 50% of his sword heart's power was considerably less than that exerted by Gong Chao. The two skills collided head-on, causing both Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao to be knocked back. They turned out to be an even match. After this collision, Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao stopped fighting and showed no intention to continue. "I've lost this fight," Gong Chao said in a rather deep voice. "It was a draw. I didn't beat you." Jian Wushuang laughed. "You're after all just a skyscraping realm expert, whereas I've already attained the divine realm." Shaking his head, Gong Chao took a solemn glance at Jian Wushuang, then calmly opened his mouth to say 2 words. He did not vocalize these 2 words, and instead simply mouthed them. He even concealed his mouth movement so well that none of the spectating experts and disciples noticed. "Jian Wushuang, I look forward to my next fight with you. I'll make sure it's an exciting one," Gong Chao said, and swiftly went back among Cloud Sea Asgard's contingent. Jian Wushuang simply smiled faintly, then turned to head back toward Ancient Sect's contingent. However, his vision became abnormally sharp after he turned his body. Although nobody else had noticed the mouth movement that Gong Chao had made expressionlessly, Jian Wushuang saw it clearly as he was standing directly in front. He could clearly decipher what these 2 words were. "Watch out." Gong Chao wanted him to be careful and even had to warn him in such an obscure manner. Jian Wushuang certainly understood what this implied. His prior suspicions were now confirmed. The 3 elite divine realm experts sent by Cloud Sea Asgard, namely Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Shui Guzi, had indeed come for him. These 3 divine realm experts sure think highly of me. Was my improvement in the ancient sect really that amazing? Why else would these top sects think so highly of me, such that even the illustrious Cloud Sea Asgard would be this afraid? Jian Wushuang furrowed his brows tightly. He did not know why. The truth was that the top sects and the 3 magnates did not think this highly of him solely because of his improvement in the ancient sect over the past few years. The most important reason was his current status. No sect could afford to not take seriously someone who was the personal disciple of Palace Master Shwani. The experts and disciples of Cloud Sea Asgard were all looking at Jian Wushuang at this very moment. Among those disciples, the trio of Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Shui Guzi, whose auras were the most brutal, carried a hint of scorching heat in their eyes. "This little fella is our target." There was a devilish smile at the corner of Dao Mei's mouth. "After watching his fight with our junior Gong Chao, I would rate his strength as merely SOSO. Only his swordsmanship is any above average," Wu Dao remarked dismissively. "It's highly impressive for a skyscraping realm expert to possess this level of battle strength and swordsmanship already. However, while he may be able to put up a fight against an elite divine realm expert, he will be completely defenseless against us." Shui Guzi's expression was one of indifference. "Humph. Judging from that level of strength, I'll finish him off in one stroke." Wu Dao sneered. "Don't get careless." Dao Mei darted a look at Wu Dao and reminded in a low voice, "Don't forget Great Elder's instructions." Wu Dao's face sank upon hearing this. At the same time, he began to recall what the Great Elder of Cloud Sea Asgard, Yun Fan, had instructed them to do before they set off. "Listen, you 3. This time your target isn't those demon gods, but Jian Wushuang instead. Do whatever it takes to kill him, but remember, do not let the ancient sect get something on us." Chapter 699, The 5th Level of Occult. Chapter 699, The 5th Level of Occult. The experts and disciples from the various sects waited quietly in the sky above the ancient forest. After some time, a bunch of experts from the three magnates began to jointly do something on the void. What are they doing? Jian Wushuang and the other disciples were puzzled. They're opening up the wormhole that leads to the Eternal Zone. Vice Palace Master Lingyu explained. The Eternal Zone may be hidden within this ancient forest, but it's an isolated space which, although rather stable, would weaken once every 100 years. When this happens, a few Eternal Realm experts working together will be able to force an opening into it. However, a forced opening won't be too stable, and as such, y'all will appear in random places throughout the Eternal Zone when you enter. In other words, y'all will be separated in the Eternal Zone and will have to find your own way around. What's more, y'all can only remain in the Eternal Zone for up to 10 days. By the 10th day, y'all must have reached the border of the Eternal Zone, where there'll naturally be a way to get all of you out. Is that really so? Jian Wushuang and company nodded inwardly. The Eternal Zone opened only once every 100 years, and each time it did was only for 10 days. To everyone who was present, a period of 10 days was certainly way too short. This opportunity was indeed hard to come by. Do we really have to move around on our own? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Also, remember never to enter the inner layer. Vice Palace Master Lingyu exhorted once more. The inner layer is the demon god clan's lair, where there are untold dangers. Even an Eternal Realm expert of my ilk will have to be very careful there, for the slightest of carelessness will be one's downfall. For those of you who are only divine realm experts, entering the inner layer will spell certain death. Understood? Jian Wushuang and company nodded. They knew that only Eternal Realm experts were qualified enough to enter the inner layer, and even then, said experts would be courting death by entering such an incomparably dangerous place. Under the joint efforts of the Eternal Realm experts, 2 wormholes appeared above the void before long. Of these 2 wormholes, one led to the outer layer of the Eternal Zone, while the other led directly to the inner layer. The wormholes have been fully created. Let's head in, and please take care of yourselves for the next 10 days, Palace Master Destruction said as he looked all around. The many experts of the ancient sect, including Jian Wushuang and the other 5 disciples, nodded and immediately headed toward the 2 wormholes. The people from the other top sects and the 3 magnates, too, made their way toward the 2 wormholes. The Eternal Realm experts stepped into the wormhole that led to the inner layer, while the Divine Realm disciples stepped into the wormhole that led to the outer layer. In quick succession, figure after figure disappeared into the wormholes. Among Cloud C. Asgard's contingent, the disciples were the last to enter the wormholes. Before entering, Wu Dao, who was first in line among them, even specially exhorted, "All of you, please don't forget your mission after entering the Eternal Zone." The disciples of Cloud C. Asgard nodded repeatedly upon hearing this. Gong, Chaos pupils, constricted a little, but he too nodded. Soon, the experts and disciples from the 9 top sects and the 3 magnates had all crossed into the Eternal Zone. This was an ancient forest which emitted an ancient aura. Towering old trees, which were more than 1,000 feet in height, were aplenty in the depths of the forest. A pale white smoke also pervaded the entire forest. This white smoke was very rarefied and carried a delicate fragrance. Standing on a branch atop a towering old tree was a young man dressed in a black robe and carrying a long sword. His eyes were looking around at his surroundings. Is this really the Eternal Zone? Jian Wushuang was muttering to himself, around whom were all kinds of large trees. He could sense that the Eternal Zone possessed an abundance of spiritual power that was not less, and perhaps even more, in amount than the outside world. At the very end of his line of sight was a pale golden light which covered an extensive territory. Is that the inner layer over there? He squinted his eyes. The Eternal Zone was incomparably vast. It was said that the outer layer alone stretched tens of millions of miles, while the inner layer was even larger in surface area. The many divine realm disciples who entered the eternal zone were, at this moment, scattered all over the outer layer. According to Vice Palace Master Lingyu, the greatest danger in the eternal zone comes from those demon gods. They see humans as marauders and hate us like none other. What's more, they have a special way to instantly differentiate their clansmen from human warriors. I wonder how they look like and how strong they are. Jian Wushuang murmured, but quickly shook his head. But aside from them, the threats I face here in the Eternal Zone also include the disciples from the other sects, especially Cloud Sea Asgard. This time, Cloud Sea Asgard has sent no less than 3 elite Divine Realm disciples, among whom include the extremely powerful Wu Dao. I'm unable to deal with them based on my current strength, and should therefore find a way to increase my strength somewhat before I go find those demon gods. A radiance shone in Jian Wushuang's eyes. In his present state, his cultivation of sword principle and secret skill could not be improved for the time being. However, his Dao understanding had lots of room for improvement. When he set off from the ancient sect, his understanding of the world Dao and slaughter Dao was only one step away from comprehending the 5th level of occult. Subsequently, the fight with Gong Chao allowed him to find a glimmer of opportunity, which made him feel as if he could gain comprehension of the 5th level of occult at any time. It should be known that there was an extremely huge gulf between comprehension of the 4th and 5th level of occult. My strength will go up a level regardless of which Dao it is that I'm able to comprehend the 5th level of occult of, and combined with my other skills, I'll be able to stand toe-to-toe with even the elite Divine Realm experts. That'll grant me the capability to compete against the 3 Divine Realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. A solemn-faced Jian Wushuang finally came to a resolve. He wasted no time finding a place in the forest where he could begin his cultivation. The first thing that the other geniuses and disciples thought about upon entering the Eternal Zone was to seek out those demon gods and find a way to kill them for their essence blood. Instead, Jian Wushuang quickly began his cultivation upon entering. This sort of cultivation only required 2 days of time. By the time 2 days had passed, Jian Wushuang had made a breakthrough in his world Dao and fully comprehended its 5th level of occult. Chapter 700 Child. Chapter 700 Child. The 5th level of occult. Standing on a treetop, Jian Wushuang clenched his fists, a radiance shining in his eyes. Having comprehended the 5th level of occult of the world Dao, his strength had reached a whole new level. Right at this moment, swish, a violent sound was suddenly heard from the forest ahead. Huh. Jian Wushuang immediately raised his head and looked toward the forest ahead. From the forest ahead suddenly appeared a huge monster. Its giant saws trampled on the trunk of a towering old tree and thrust forcibly, causing the trunk to snap. Within a few strides, it appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Is this a demon god? Jian Wushuang gazed at the figure that had just popped up in front of him. More than 3 meters in height, its body was covered with bronze-colored skin and emitted an incomparably thick and overbearing aura. So this is a demon god? I feel that, aside from its size and skin, it's not that much different from humans. Frowning slightly, he was a little cautious, and his palm subconsciously felt for the long sword behind his back. Demon gods were divided into copper-armored demon gods, silver-armored demon gods, and gold-armored demon gods. The one in front of him was evidently the lowest grade copper-armored demon god, but nevertheless it was also extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang had never fought with a demon god and did not understand their battle strength, and so naturally did not dare to be careless in the slightest. It stood in front of Jian Wushuang and stared at him with its arms crossed. Suddenly, it began to gradually relax its crossing of arms. The sight of this caused Jian Wushuang's pupils to constrict slightly. He subconsciously believed that the demon god was ready to attack. But then, "Child, why are you still here?" A sincere voice was uttered from the demon god's mouth. Jian Wushuang winced and looked at the demon god in surprise. He was not shocked by the fact that the demon god actually spoke, but rather by its attitude toward him. "Child, what sort of address is this? Isn't this usually what a senior would call a junior?" Jian Wushuang also discovered that there was goodwill in the demon god's eyes as it spoke. Yes, goodwill. Every 100 years, human warriors from the Firmament territory would invade the Eternal Zone and massacre these demon gods. The demon god clan had long abhorred the human invasions and would typically seek to kill any human they spotted. But this time the copper-armored demon god not only did not attack Jian Wushuang, but even addressed him as child in a friendly manner. "What's the matter?" Jian Wushuang furrowed his brows tightly. "Child, I'm asking you a question." Staring at Jian Wushuang, the demon god continued, 100 years have passed, and humans from the outside world are coming. Didn't your parents tell you that this place is no longer safe?" Jian Wushuang felt even weirder deep down upon hearing this. He understood from the demon god's words that it had obviously mistaken him for a clansman. How can he possibly mistake me for a clansman? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Could it be because I'm only a skyscraping realm expert? According to Vice Palace Master Lingyu, the demon god clansmen were similar to humans before they underwent metamorphosis during the baptism process. And each time the Eternal Zone had opened in the past, the invading human warriors were at least of the divine realm, which meant that he was the first skyscraping realm expert to ever invade. There was hence a slim possibility that the demon god had mistaken him for a clansman upon seeing that he was only a skyscraping realm expert. But Jian Wushuang swiftly denied this possibility. He had heard from Vice Palace Master Lingyu that the demon god clansmen had a special method to instantly identify their fellow clansmen. This method was apparently based on the person's aura or some other aspect. In any case, the demon gods typically only needed one look to identify humans. Since this was what Vice Palace Master Lingyu said, it was definitely true. But what was happening right now? Although Jian Wushuang continued to be baffled, he opened his mouth and replied, "I got separated from my elders." "You got separated? No wonder." The copper-armored demon god nodded slightly and laughed. "Your family members are too careless. This would usually not be a problem, but humans are coming and will be roaming these parts over the next couple of days. You'll be sorry if they spot you." The demon god approached Jian Wushuang as it spoke. Jian Wushuang remained vigilant at heart as he observed each and every of the demon god's movements. Conversely, the demon god showed no precaution toward him. It walked up beside him and extended a palm toward him. "I'm called Gu Qiong and come from the 7th tribe. I've never seen you there before. As the only tribes in this region are the 7th and the 8th tribe, I guess you should be a clansman of the 8th, right?" The demon god asked. "Correct." Jian Wushuang nodded profusely. "I'm called Jian Wushuang and am from the 8th tribe." Jian Wushuang. Gu Qiong frowned. What an unusual name. It's similar to that of humans from the outside world. Jian Wushuang felt a jolt in his heart. Gu Qiong continued, "Jian Wushuang, you were lucky that you ran into me. Had it instead been those evil outsiders that you ran into, they would surely have killed you without mercy." Though he could not help laughing, Jian Wushuang felt even more confused. "All right then, follow me. This territory is too dangerous. Our clansmen are fighting against those outsiders as we speak. There's no chance of survival for a child like you who hasn't even undergone the demon god baptism if you remain here. Follow me, and I'll bring you back to your tribe," Gu Qiong said, laughing. "Okay, thank you so much." Jian Wushuang acknowledged. "Follow me." Gu Qiong began to head deep into the forest. Jian Wushuang followed quietly behind at only a few meters' distance. It has its back to me. How could it be this, unguarded? Jian Wushuang furrowed his brows. He had imagined the scene of encountering these demon gods prior to entering the Eternal Zone. He had felt somewhat disgusted when he found out that the experts from the various sects in the Firmament territory would invade the home of the demon gods and kill them for their essence blood, and had even considered not killing these demon gods himself. His verdict at that time was that he would not mind killing these demon gods if they were of an evil and cruel nature. However, he never imagined that the first demon god he encountered would mistake him for a clansman and be this friendly and unguarded toward him, such that it would even send him back to what it thought was his tribe. What exactly is going on? Jian Wushuang was in utter disbelief. Chapter 701 Clansman? Chapter 701 Clansman. In the outer layer of the Eternal Zone, two figures were gliding in the endless forest. Jian Wushuang was following the copper-armored demon god, Guqiong. Jian Wushuang, you're pretty good. You can keep up with me, Guqiong said as he turned to give the boy a friendly glance. Yeah, fortunately. Jian Wushuang nodded. Suddenly, boom! A violent sound arose, accompanied by two streams of mighty power. Someone is fighting. Jian Wushuang immediately understood. Shit, there must be outsiders, Guqiong mumbled and then accelerated. Soon after, they arrived at a battlefield. A patch of dense forest had disappeared as all the big trees were shattering into pieces. Two figures were fighting in the center of a huge, open space. A stone-faced man with a mighty aura was waving his long spear. He was proficient in the raging fire Dao, so every strike was scorching and violent. It's him. Jian Wushuang immediately recognized the stone-faced man. Although he did not know his name, Jian Wushuang had met this superior divine realm expert when many disciples gathered in the Eternal Zone. The stone-faced man was 4 meters tall, with silver skin that sparkled in the sunshine. A silver-armored demon god, Jian Wushuang thought while narrowing his eyes. Silver-armored demon gods were much stronger than copper-armored demon gods. He's our captain. The moment he saw this silver-armored demon god, Guqiong burst into hearty laughter and said in a confident tone, Haha, it's not the outsider's day. He's encountered our captain. Jian Wushuang sensed that this silver-armored demon god was terrifying. This silver-armored demon god held a silver mace in each of his giant hands. At this point, he was successively swinging his weapons, which contained the strength of billions of pounds, while his opponent had exerted his full strength but was still losing ground. Every time the silver-armored demon god hit the stone-faced man's long spear, the latter would shiver. Obviously, he was unable to counter such violent power. After a while, the stone-faced man's hand started bleeding. How powerful! Jian Wushuang was stunned. He sensed that the stone-faced man was as strong as a superior divine realm expert and more powerful than Hu, but he was far inferior to the silver-armored demon god in strength, speed, and skill. This silver-armored demon god is proficient in close fighting, Jian Wushuang said to himself. Upon realizing that there was no chance to strike back, the stone-faced man turned to flee without hesitation. Although the silver-armored demon god chased after him, the stone-faced man was a core disciple of the boundless demon sect and had an excellent life-saving skill, so he easily escaped. It's a pity that this outsider escaped. Guqiong sighed and walked toward the silver-armored demon god. Captain. Guqiong greeted him in a resonant voice. The silver-armored demon god, who had landed on the ground, turned his head in surprise. When he saw Guqiong, he broke into a smile, saying, "And what are your battle results?" "Bad luck. I only encountered an outsider over the last 2 days. He was as strong as me, so he left when he realized that he was unable to kill me," Guqiong replied. "Those outsiders have incredible skills, so it's hard to kill them. The silver-armored demon god nodded slightly. He was capable of defeating the stone-faced man, but he could do nothing if his opponent escaped. You're lucky. At least you're alive. Gu Feng and Gu Ying are dead, the silver-armored demon god said. What? Gu Qiong was astonished. Then he clenched his hands, with fury burning in his eyes. Damn it! The outsiders are our enemies. They desire our essence blood to improve their strength while we train ourselves by fighting with them. We all take what we need. The silver-armored demon god sighed. Upon hearing this, Gu Qiong shook his head. Right, Captain, I met a clansman on my way. He is a little boy who hasn't been baptized, Gu Qiong suddenly said. Oh! The silver-armored demon god was surprised. Gu Qiong turned to shout toward the forest. Boy, come out. Jian Wushuang wore a solemn expression and hesitated, debating whether to go out or not. Although Gu Qiong regarded him as his clansman, this captain would probably recognize that he was an outsider. And once he was recognized by the silver-armored demon god, Jian Wushuang knew that he was unable to fight him. I can't match him in a head-on fight, so if I run, he won't have an opportunity to kill me. Jian Wushuang was deep in thought and finally decided to meet this silver-armored demon god. He wanted to figure out why Gu Qiong treated him as his clansman. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang flew out of the dense forest and appeared in front of the two demon gods. He deliberately stood 10 meters away from them and remained on guard. Even if this silver-armored demon god suddenly attacked him, he would be able to react in time. Jian Wushuang, why are you so slow? We're family. What are you afraid of? Gu Qiong looked at the boy with a smile. The silver-armored demon god also scrutinized the boy, who was a bit perturbed. Jian Wushuang. The silver-armored demon god looked him up and down and then said with a frown, This name is similar to that of the outsiders. It's strange that he's here, but his soul aura is indeed consistent with our clansmen. Chapter 702, Soul Aura. Chapter 702, Soul Aura. The silver-armored demon god's face fell as he asked severely, Boy, didn't your seniors tell you not to come to this area? Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. Obviously, this silver-armored demon god regarded him as his clansman. Captain, this boy has lost touch with his family. Gu Qiong explained. Really? The silver-armored demon god raised his eyebrows. Gu Qiong looked over at Jian Wushuang and introduced his captain. Jian Wushuang, this is my captain, Gu Yan. Captain Gu Yan. Jian Wushuang addressed him with modesty, while thinking, Gu Yan, Gu Qiong, and the dead Gu Feng, and Gu Ying, all of them with the surname Gu. Are all the clansmen from the demon god clan named Gu? No wonder they said that my name is a bit odd. Captain, I've just bumped into this boy and planned on sending him back to his tribe, but I didn't expect to meet you here, Gu Qiong said honestly. Send him back to his tribe. Gu Yan spared Jian Wushuang a glance and then nodded slightly. He hasn't been baptized and should not have been here. This territory is filled with outsiders, so it's dangerous for you to travel here alone, let alone with this little guy. What should I do? Will you escort us back personally? Gu Qiong frowned. I'm the captain, so I can't leave the battlefield. Gu Yan shook his head. Well, I know a good place to hide. Ordinarily, the outsiders won't be able to find it. You can go there with this boy and hide for a few days. Those outsiders stay for 10 days every time they enter the zone. There are 8 days left. You can wait until then. Gu Qiong immediately nodded. Okay. Follow me, Gu Yan ordered and set off. Jian Wushuang, let's follow the captain, Gu Qiong added. Jian Wushuang shrugged, but obeyed. Shortly after, Gu Yan led them into a patch of dense forest. There was a hole in the ground which was covered by weeds. Gu Qiong, take this boy and stay in the cave for 8 days. Remember, don't radiate your aura. Gu Yen cautioned him. Okay, replied Gu Qiong with a nod. Gu Yen looked around to ensure that there were no dangers, and then left before Jian Wushuang, and Gu Qiong entered the cave. There was a spacious open area inside the cave. It was dark without any decorations. But Jian Wushuang and Gu Qiong were still able to see, clearly in the dark. Come, boy, let's have a drink. Gu Qiong turned his hand over and took out a bag of wine. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate, and as he drank, a pungent feeling ran through his body. What a spicy wine! Jian Wushuang growled and felt as if he were going to spout out fire. He had never drunk such spicy wine before. Haha, good wine, right? My wife brews it for me. It's a pity that she only gives me one bag every month. You have to save some for me, Gu Qiong said with a smile. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and drank again before he returned the wine bag to this demon god. After wiping his mouth, Jian Wushuang said, Big brother Gu Qiong, I need to ask you about something. About what? Gu Qiong replied indifferently. You said you fought with outsiders. What's the difference between us? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Jian Wushuang was really eager to learn about it. He wanted to figure out why Gu Qiong and Gu Yen regarded him as their clansmen. That's easy, Gu Qiong answered with a grin. Outsiders are seemingly the same as you are, thin and small and haven't been baptized. Actually, these are just the superficial similarities. Their souls are different from ours. Souls? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Everyone has their own soul aura. The outsider's soul auras are totally different from ours. As long as they appear, I can recognize them, Gu Qiong explained. Oh! Jian Wushuang nodded inwardly, but he was actually quite astonished. Gu Qiong and the other clansmen from the Demon God clan were able to distinguish outsiders from their clansmen according to their soul auras. However, Gu Qiong and Gu Yen regarded Jian Wushuang as their clansmen. That is to say, they sensed that Jian Wushuang had the same aura as them. My soul aura is the same as the demon gods? How is this possible? Jian Wushuang felt it was unbelievable. He had been trying to figure out the reason ever since Gu Qiong became under the impression that he came from the Demon God clan. Jian Wushuang had suspected that it was because of the Immortality secret skill. The Immortality secret skill he had received in the ancient world came from an expert called God Hong. God Hong, who came from the eternal world, had to belong to a special clan because his broken finger was larger than Jian Wushuang. The demon gods all had big and powerful bodies, so God Hong possibly came from the demon god clan. Then it was natural for them to regard Jian Wushuang as their clansman because he had cultivated the immortality secret skill that God Hong created. Nevertheless, he discovered that he was wrong, as the immortality secret skill had only improved his body, but it was unable to change his soul aura. Souls were mysterious, so he was definitely unable to change it by himself. Jian Wushuang was sure that he had no bond with the demon god clan, but now his soul aura was the same as the demon gods. There was only one possibility: the universal Tao scripture. Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with excitement. When Jian Wushuang received the universal Tao scripture, his master Xian Yi told him that it was a special secret skill and that he would know its function in the near future. Therefore, it was likely that the universal Tao scripture had changed his soul aura. Chapter 703 Help. Chapter 703 Help. The universal Tao scripture. Jian Wushuang muttered, but he instantly shook his head. Come on, don't think about it. I can ask my master after I return to the ancient sect. Now that they are treating me as their clansmen, and I haven't intended to kill them, it should be fine. 5 days passed by. Every time the Eternal Zone opened, the outsiders were able to stay for 10 days. Jian Wushuang had spent 2 days meditating on the fifth occult of the world Tao and had stayed in this underground cave with Gu Qiong for 5 days. so the outsiders had 3 days left. Jian Wushuang spent most of the time cultivating. He occasionally drank and chatted with Gu Qiong. Now he had a basic understanding of the Demon God clan. The Demon God clan had been living in the Eternal Zone for countless years. They called themselves the descendants of the ancient god. It was said that their ancestor was powerful enough to shatter the world. However, their ancestor disappeared many years ago, and no one knew his whereabouts. All the ancient gods' descendants admired him. Their blind worship of their ancestor had not weakened with age. The demon gods in this eternal zone amounted to more than 1 million. They all gathered in the inner layer and were divided into 10 tribes. Gu Qiong and Gu Yen came from the 7th tribe. They all treated their clansmen like family and were friendly to the other clans as well as the human population. Each time the Eternal Zone opened, experts from the Firmament territory rushed in and tried to kill their clansmen, which provoked the demon gods. Therefore, the Demon God clan would dispatch their elite clansmen to deal with the outsiders. Over the years, the experts killed many demon gods and vice versa. The experts from the Firmament territory are invaders indeed, Jian Wushuang thought. Little brother Wushuang, the outsiders should leave in 3 days. Then we can go out, Gu Qiong said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He had just made up his mind to leave when the time was up. Just then, howl! A roar came from the depths of the dense forest. It seemed to be from a long distance away, but it was resonant, so Jian Wushuang and Gu Qiong were able to hear it clearly. Is it? Gu Qiong immediately stood up. My clansman nearby is asking for help. Oh! Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. Gu Qiong said in a low voice, It must be because of the outsiders. Howl! Another roar was heard. Jian Wushuang could tell that it sounded urgent. Damn it! So urgent, this clansman won't be able to withstand it. Gu Qiong seemed worried as he said to the boy in an anxious voice, Little brother Wushuang, you stay here, I'll go and check it out. Jian Wushuang had already risen up, and he replied, Let's go together. Okay, come on. They instantly flew out of the cave. The moment they appeared in the dense forest, they sensed violent roars from a nearby area. Hurry up, Gu Qiong said urgently. The two of them immediately accelerated and arrived at a battlefield. A copper-armored demon god was fighting with a human warrior fiercely. The human warrior in a scarlet robe gripped a scarlet scythe and charged forward like a ghost, leaving blood shadows in the sky. Jian Wushuang considered the man and thought, It's him, Shui Guzi, one of the 3 superior divine realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. Jian Wushuang came for the 3 superior divine realm experts, so he had paid more attention to them. Shui Guzi was considered the weakest among the 3 superior divine realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. However, as the core disciple of Cloud Sea Asgard, Shui Guzi was far more powerful than Hu, who had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Shui Guzi casually swung the scarlet scythe, unleashing blood shadows to suppress his opponent. The copper-armored demon god desperately resisted, but had no chance to fight back. The copper-armored demon god was comparable to an advanced divine realm expert, so he was far inferior to Shui Guzi. Fortunately, he had a powerful body, so he was able to sustain the attacks for a while. Without any aid, the copper-armored demon god would die without a doubt. Bastard! Gu Qiong growled and, without hesitation, dived toward the battlefield. Jian Wushuang only watched the fighting from afar. He did not intend to step in. When the copper-armored demon god, who had fallen into despair, saw Gu Qiong, he was surprised and delighted. Gu Jing, let's kill this outsider. Obviously, Gu Qiong knew the copper-armored demon god. Gu Jing nodded solemnly. No problem. Then they charged toward their opponent. Huh. Shui Guzi seemed glad that Gu Qiong had joined their fight. His evil eyes glittered with a flicker of excitement. Buy one, get one free. I'm lucky. Shue Guzi laughed out loud and dashed toward them with his scarlet scythe. Chapter 704. Jian Wushuang joins in. Chapter 704. Jian Wushuang joins in. Humph! Gu Qiong snorted. A giant, 3-meter-long axe appeared in his hand. The body of the axe was extremely wide, like a small hill. A might power surged out from his huge arm as he lashed out with the axe. Boom! It collided with the scarlet scythe, causing a violent clash. The strength of both of them erupted. Gu Qiong was knocked back, while Shue Guzi only took a step back. Oh! Shue Guzi stared at Gu Qiong with a flicker of surprise in his eyes, saying, Nice, both of you are copper-armored demon gods, but you're stronger than your friend. Anyway, the result won't change. He grinned before he dived forward. Shwa, shwa, shwa. All that appeared in the sky was a few scarlet shadows. No one knew where Shue Guzi was. Gu Qiong was astonished and said to himself so fast, Gu Qiong, be careful, he is really fast. Gu Jing warned his friend. Just then, Shue Guzi appeared at his opponent's side. A cold blood light flashed toward the latter's head. Gu Qiong immediately wielded his giant axe to resist it, but the blood light suddenly changed its trajectory when it was about to crash into the axe. The odd swerve was out of the demon god's expectation. Chi! The blood light flashed through Gu Qiong's chest, cutting off a piece of flesh. Bastard! Gu Qiong snarled. He furiously hacked at his opponent's head with his axe, while Gu Jing gripped a sturdy stone staff and charged forward. Shue Guzi shook his head and said, You're too slow. Swish! Swish! The giant axe and stone staff both went through Shue Guzi but touched nothing. A cold blood light suddenly appeared behind Gu Qiong. Shwa! A huge knife mark appeared on Gu Qiong's back, where blood spurted out. If Gu Qiong did not have such a powerful body, he would have been split in half. Seeing what was happening, Jian Wushuang shook his head. He mumbled to himself, The demon god clan is famous for their bodies and for having terrifying offensive and defensive powers, but their speed is their disadvantage. Gu Qiong was almost as strong as an ordinary superior divine realm expert in offensive power if he exerted his full strength, but his speed was only comparable to an advanced divine realm expert. However, Shue Guzi, he was proficient in speed, so he moved and attacked faster than the two demon gods. Shue Guzi took the advantage of his speed to play with his opponents. Gu Yan, who is good at close combat, might be able to defeat Shue Guzi with ease, but it's impossible for these two copper-armored demon gods to fight him. They'll be killed without a doubt. It seems that I should show my move. Jian Wushuang licked his lips. If it were a disciple from another sect who was fighting Gu Qiong, Jian Wushuang might have hesitated to join the battle, but things became different when it was a disciple from Cloud Sea Asgard. It was clear to Jian Wushuang that 3 superior divine realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard had come for him, so he would not wait until they attacked him to fight. It was good to take the initiative in a fight. The Emperor's sword appeared in his hand. The next moment he glided forward. Shue Guzi was brandishing the scarlet scythe while playing with his opponents, who had received more cuts on their bodies. The demon gods' bodies are powerful. They're still alive under my attack, and their strength hasn't weakened. Shue Guzi frowned. His offensive power was not strong enough to kill his opponents with a single strike, but he was able to injure them by using his speed. Shue Guzi thought, Anyway, it will just take me more time. And then, swoosh, a figure unexpectedly appeared beside him. Huh. Shue Guzi instantly perceived it. After parrying the attacks from the two demon gods, he turned his head to look and found a black-robed youth staring at him coldly. Is that Jian Wushuang? Shue Guzi was astonished. His main purpose in coming here was to kill Jian Wushuang. However, He and the other disciples from Cloud Sea Asgard had not encountered the boy over the past 7 days. With there being only 3 days left, he had been upset about it. But now, Jian Wushuang unexpectedly appeared in front of him. "Does the boy want to grab my prey?" Shui Guzi frowned and saw a killing intent flash through Jian Wushuang's eyes. No, his target is not the demon gods, but me. He already knows that Cloud Sea Asgard wants to kill him. Shui Guzi understood and then sneered while thinking, even knowing that instead of hiding he's come to kill me? Ha, he is courting death. Boy, since you want to die, I'll grant your wish. So much mighty killing intent gushed out from his eyes that it almost materialized. Shui Guzi charged toward Jian Wushuang. Boy, go to hell. Shui Guzi snarled. His scarlet scythe, which was covered by a bloody mist, flashed through the sky. Shui Guzi used his full strength to display his strongest move. He hacked at Jian Wushuang's head. Chapter 705, Hidden Strength. Chapter 705, Hidden Strength. Shui Guzi was unable to kill the demon gods with his strongest move. Instead, he could only slowly torture them to death. On the other hand, he was confident of killing Jian Wushuang with a single move, as his body was weaker than the demon gods. Seeing the oncoming strike, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with battle intent. His face was grim. Idiot! You're so eager to kill me that you've forgotten what you're good at. You want to kill me with your offensive power. We'll see who wins. As his killing intent soared, Jian Wushuang tightened his grip on his emperor sword. In his sea of consciousness, the sharp sword heart suddenly shook, activating 100% of its sword heart power. His spiritual power and physical strength instantly peaked. He swung the emperor's sword, giving full play to the strength of this eternal weapon. Violet Calamity, sword skill. His eyes flashed. Jian Wushuang performed the strongest move, Violet Calamity sword skill. A brilliant purple light appeared. It looked like a purple sun. It was so dazzling that Gu Qiong and Gu Jing could not help but close their eyes. Shui Guzi was shocked. He had a grim sense of foreboding. However, it was too late. The brilliant purple sword light had pierced into his scarlet shadow. Clang! The collision caused sparks and formless waves to spread in all directions. How is that possible? Shui Guzi looked at the scarlet scythe in disbelief. He sensed a terrifying power being transmitted from his weapon. Although his defensive skills were weak, his body was still stronger than that of an advanced divine realm expert. However, being confronted with a terrifying power, his right palm suddenly shook and burst apart. His whole arm disintegrated into a fog of blood in the blink of an eye. The initial confrontation had already disabled him. What did this mean? Impossible. Shui Guzi glared at Jian Wushuang as if he had forgotten his pain. 7 days ago, he had witnessed Jian Wushuang fighting against Gong Chao. He had thought that Jian Wushuang was an advanced divine realm expert. He had told Wu Dao and Dao Mei that Jian Wushuang would not stand a chance against them. However, the head-on confrontation with Jian Wushuang had shattered his right arm and hand. He definitely has the battle strength of a superior divine realm expert, and his offensive power is greater than an ordinary one. Shui Guzi's face paled. He had lost his right hand as well as his scarlet scythe, so his battle strength plummeted. Run. Shui Guzi wanted to escape. Jian Wushuang had preempted this. He immediately displayed his exquisite swordsmanship. Streaks of sword shadows that formed a huge net fell toward Shui Guzi. World prison. Jian Wushuang growled. Mighty world energy gushed out and formed a colossal world prison around his opponent. Jian Wushuang had comprehended the fifth occult of the world Dao, so the world prison was more powerful than before. World prison and sword net suppressed Shui Guzi and slowed him down. Shue Guzi was running around in wild panic within the world prison. He might have been able to escape from the world prison alone, but faced with the sword net. Jian Wushuang chased Shue Guzi so relentlessly that the latter struggled to keep resisting. Piss off! Piss off! A sickle appeared in Shue Guzi's left hand. He wanted to fight back with it. However, he had no chance to do so. What? He is so powerful. I know his swordsmanship is exquisite, but how could it be so terrifying? It was terrifying indeed. He had thought that with his skills at the saber technique, he would be able to withstand Jian Wushuang's attacks for a while despite having to use his left hand. The facts were, however, way beyond what he expected. Jian Wushuang, you hid your strength. Shue Guzi snarled as he stared at his opponent. Right, you finally realized it, but it's too late. Jian Wushuang responded with a sneer. He brandished the emperor's sword and knocked the sickle away. At this point, Gu Qiong and Gu Jing dashed over to Shue Guzi and cut off his escape route. No. Shue Guzi roared in despair. Knowing that he was at death's door, his desperation turned to madness. Jian Wushuang, even if I die, I won't make it easy for you. The eternal zone will be your grave. Ha! Shue Guzi laughed out. He stared at Jian Wushuang with red eyes as he waved with his only hand. Bang! Shue Guzi suddenly burst into a fog of blood. Chapter 706, Blood Mark? Chapter 706, Blood Mark. He made himself explode. Jian Wushuang looked at the haze of blood in astonishment. Little brother Wushuang. Gu Qiong and Gu Jing walked toward him. Little brother Wushuang, you're amazing. The outsider was very powerful. Even Gu Jing and I didn't stand a chance against him. But you managed to kill him. Gu Qiong looked surprised. I was lucky. He underestimated me. Otherwise, I couldn't have killed him. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. It was the truth. He had hidden most of his strength when he fought with Gong Chao. So Shue Guzi had underestimated him and was eager to kill him. Although Shue Guzi was considered the weakest among the 3 superior divine realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard, he was the core disciple and had various trump cards. Typically, it would not have been easy to kill him. If Shue Guzi had taken advantage of his speed to launch an attack, Jian Wushuang would have been unable to find a chance to kill him. Regrets were useless. A wrong judgment had led his death. Gu Qiong, this little brother is... Gu Jing looked at Jian Wushuang curiously. I've bumped into him on the road. He is Jian Wushuang from the 8th tribe, Gu Qiong answered. The 8th tribe? Little brother Wushuang, you haven't yet made a breakthrough to the divine realm, right? And you also haven't received baptism. It's incredible that you were able to kill an outsider. Gu Jing was full of praise. Haha, I thought that you had been separated from your family. Now, I know that you've come to train yourself by fighting those outsiders, right? Gu Qiong said with a grin. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile and felt relieved. Right, you've seen through me. It seemed that Gu Qiong had not suspected his identity, although he had displayed battle strength, which was inconsistent with his own realm. For the demon gods, they only believed in soul aura, which was enough to prove Jian Wushuang's identity. There were many supreme geniuses in the demon god clan, so it was common to see some rank-skipping challenges. At this juncture, Jian Wushuang sensed something amiss. He looked at his right arm and saw a cloud of blood fog creeping towards it. It eventually condensed into blood mark. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. This is... Seeing this mark, Jian Wushuang eventually understood why Shue Guzi had made himself explode. Shue Guzi wanted to leave a blood mark on his opponent so that the other disciples from Cloud Sea Asgard would be able to find him. Jian Wushuang had seen it before in the ancient world. The mark, like a lighthouse in the dark night, would guide his enemies to find him. Previously, in the ancient world, someone from the Holy Emperor Palace had left a similar mark on him. Since he had been unable to escape at the time, he had to fight to the death with the second Holy Master. Now he was in the same situation. Xue Guzi has practiced such a skill on purpose. It seems that he was prepared for it. Jian Wushuang's expression was frosty. He realized that aside from Xue Guzi, the other 9 disciples from the Cloud Sea Asgard might have mastered the mark skill. Little brother Wushuang, what is this blood mark? Gu Qiong asked when he noticed it on Jian Wushuang's arm. The outsider left this mark on me so that the other outsiders would be able to find me. Jian Wushuang responded solemnly. What? Gu Qiong was astonished. That means you'll be targeted by the outsiders. Right, but it's just a few people. Jian Wushuang replied as he fixed his eyes on the blood mark. I wonder if my heavenly creation skill can remove this mark, Jian Wushuang thought. He activated the heavenly creation skill. The heavenly creation skill was incredibly powerful. It had been able to refine Lung Rushuang's icy heart poison, so it should be able to remove this mark. However, the mark was deep. Jian Wushuang estimated that it would take him 3 days to remove it. The disciples from Cloud Sea Asgard would find him within that period of time. I'm in trouble, Jian Wushuang thought as his eyes narrowed. Gu Qiong looked over at Jian Wushuang and said, Little brother Wushuang, don't worry. This is our place, so we don't need to be afraid of those outsiders. Although most of our clansmen stay in the tribe, there have been a few fights with outsiders in this zone. If the outsiders find you, we'll help you to kill them. Right? Our demon gods are stronger than the outsiders. And our 7th tribe has sent 15 squads here, which means we have 150 clansmen helping us, in addition to the clansmen from the 8th tribe. You don't have to worry about the outsiders. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Right? I'm unable to fight against Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and the other disciple from Cloud Sea Asgard, but I'm now a clansman of Demon God Clan. In the Eternal Zone, demon gods are the real masters. They're the strongest. Huh. Jian Wushuang could not help but laugh aloud. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Cloud Sea Asgard, since you want to kill me, I won't make it easy on you. This time, if I can't set you up, I'm not Jian Wushuang. Chapter 707, Wu Dao. Chapter 707, Wu Dao. Big brother Gu Qiong, do you have any method to contact the clansmen in the forest? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course. Gu Qiong nodded. Our 7th tribe has 15 squads here, and each squad has its own contact spot. If there's an emergency, we can leave messages in those spots. The message token did not work in the Eternal Zone, so demon gods could only use the contact spots to send messages. That's fine, then Jian Wushuang started to explain his plan to Gu Qiong and Gu Jing. After a while, the 3 of them came to an agreement. In that case, Gu Jing and I will go to the contact spot. Little brother Wushuang, you'll have to deal with the outsider by yourself. Be careful, Gu Qiong said. Don't worry. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Gu Qiong and Gu Jing headed for their own squad's contact spot, leaving Jian Wushuang standing alone on the cratered ground. Jian Wushuang sat down with his legs crossed. Cloud Sea Asgard, I'm waiting for you. Come on. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes as he began to meditate on his slaughter Dao. He had comprehended the 5th occult of the world Dao, but his slaughter Dao was relatively weak. When he had fought Xue Guzi, Jian Wushuang sensed that he was about to make a breakthrough in the slaughter Dao. He might be able to comprehend the 5th occult of the world Dao before the experts from Cloud Sea Asgard found him. By that time, his strength would have improved greatly. Jian Wushuang waited quietly for his enemies. Meanwhile, in the deep forest, in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone, whoosh! A young man with a saber on his back glided and came to a sudden halt. He had an arrogant look and an icy gaze. He was Wu Dao, one of the 3 superior divine realm experts, as well as the strongest one. Shweguzi was also a superior divine realm expert, but he was far inferior to Wu Dao. Wu Dao stood on the treetop as he looked at this right palm where a blood mark had formed. This mark felt hot and was able to lead him to his destination. This blood mark is finally activated. I wonder which junior brother encountered Jian Wushuang. Wu Dao sneered. Aided by the blood mark, he would be able to find Jian Wushuang's whereabouts with ease. Wu Dao turned and headed for his destination. Not long after Wu Dao left, a black-robed figure appeared where Wu Dao had stood moments ago. A strange smile appeared on his face as he stared at Wu Dao's retreating figure. It looks like he's learnt where Jian Wushuang is. Good, I hope he won't disappoint me. The black-robed figure transformed into a black fog and moved forward. He had been tailing Wu Dao for several days, but the superior divine realm expert had not discovered it. Wu Dao glided through the dense forest and eventually reached his destination after half a day. I'm almost there. Watching the boiling blood mark, Wu Dao accelerated. He had a fierce expression on his face. Soon, he spotted Jian Wushuang, who was sitting on the ground. Whoosh! Wu Dao appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and fixed him with a frosty stare. Boy, you're not escaping? You're bold. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and stared at Wu Dao. Then he stretched his right arm to show his blood mark. It's impossible to escape with this thing. Why waste my time? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. It's good that you know. Wu Dao replied with an icy stare. Fine. No more nonsense. I'll give you a lift. Go to hell. Go to hell. Jian Wushuang sneered as he rose. We'll see who dies. Let's have a try. Wu Dao responded as he stretched his hand to his saber. As the saber was unsheathed, the purple saber radiated a fierce aura. Wu Dao snorted and swung at his opponent with the saber. Shua, the strike, cleaved the air. A mighty, brilliant saber river appeared in the sky. As it stretched towards Jian Wushuang, it gave the illusion that he was being split in half. This guy is indeed powerful. Jian Wushuang thought grimly. Jian Wushuang realized that Wu Dao was far superior to Hu Hu and Shweguzi. Therefore, he had to take him seriously. He activated the full power of Sword Heart and launched an attack with his Emperor's Sword. Shua! The continuous saber river shattered in the blink of an eye. Wu Dao was astonished. He glanced at Jian Wushuang. He resisted my attack. It looks like he hid most of his strength when he fought my junior brother Gong Chao. But the result will be the same. It'll just take more effort. Wu Dao shook as his aura soared. His body changed dramatically. His entire body began to swell up. His figure grew larger until he was 2 meters tall. His aura reached a new level. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Wu Dao wore a cold smile. He dashed out and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Chapter 708, 2 verses 2. Chapter 708, 2 verses 2. The purple saber lashed out like lightning. Shua! It moved extremely fast. This speed! Jian Wushuang was surprised. Luckily, he was proficient in sword principle, so he was able to react in time. Clang! 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 Wu Dao brandished his saber with terrifying strength and made swift strikes in succession. The killing intent in his eyes soared as Jian Wushuang fully released the power of the World Dao. The World Dao contained everything in the world. Although it had no peculiarity, it was flawless. Jian Wushuang combined it with his swordsmanship and succeeded in resisting attacks from his opponent. Ghost Shadow! Wu Dao shouted. The purple saber shot forward with doubled speed and force. Violet Calamity, sword skill. Jian Wushuang immediately displayed his trump card. Boom! The collision caused Jian Wushuang to tilt backwards and made his hands tingle. Wu Dao remained unaffected and continued to unleash saber light at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang appeared fearless and remained stoic. Seeing Jian Wushuang resisting in a composed manner, Wu Dao was surprised. "Boy, you do possess some strength." He had underestimated Jian Wushuang. After witnessing his fight with Gong Chao, Wu Dao had even proclaimed that he would be able to kill him with a single strike. However, Wu Dao had barely been able to suppress him, even with his full strength. I can't match you in offensive power, but your saber technique is far inferior to my sword technique. I can't defeat you, but it's impossible for you to kill me." Jian Wushuang growled. He had completely comprehended the 9 occults of the Slaughter Dao. Now he was capable of remaining undefeated with the help of his exquisite swordsmanship. "You're right. It's hard to kill you on my own. What a pity. There's another expert who wants you to die." Wu Dao sneered as he looked at a spot next to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang paled as he found a figure standing next to him. Dao Mei. Jian Wushuang's face fell. Now he had to deal with 2 superior divine realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. Dao Mei folded his arms and said coldly, "Wu Dao, didn't you say that you could kill him with a single strike?" "I didn't know that he had hidden his strength. It's already reached our level. He is even stronger than Shui Guzi. Moreover, his swordsmanship is too exquisite," Wu Dao snorted. He was telling the truth. His overall strength was far superior to Jian Wushuang, but he was unable to defeat the boy because of his extraordinary swordsmanship. Extraordinary swordsmanship? What about comparing it to my saber technique? Dao Mei sneered. Dao Mei was proficient in saber technique. "Let's work together to kill him. This zone is full of danger. If we dally too long, we might draw the attention of the demon gods or the other experts," Wu Dao said in a solemn tone. "Okay." Dao Mei nodded. Terrifying aura erupted from the 2 experts as they charged forward. 2 superior divine realm experts? Jian Wushuang was not frightened. Shua, his body seemed to split for a second, and 2 figures appeared. One resisted Wu Dao, while the other one dealt with Dao Mei. 2 versus 2. Jian Wushuang continued to hold his own in the fight. Doppelganger's secret skill. He had displayed that skill in the Firmament Territory Feast. It's not a big deal. It won't change anything. The strength of Wu Dao and Dao Mei erupted. They were the strongest among the superior divine realm experts, although Jian Wushuang had comprehended the 5th occult of World Dao and Slaughter Dao, and his strength had greatly improved after entering the Eternal Zone. He was still weaker than the 2 experts. Fortunately, his excellent swordsmanship helped him to withstand their attacks for a while. Jian Wushuang, I'll see how long you'll withstand our attacks," Wu Dao said in an icy tone. Wu Dao launched continuous attacks, giving Jian Wushuang no respite, causing his world body to gradually retreat. The slaughter body was in a worse situation. Jian Wushuang had used the heart-killing sword instead of his eternal weapon, the Emperor's sword, so his slaughter body was weaker than the world body. The slaughter body was only adept at offensive attack, but he was still inferior than Dao Mei. While the 2 original bodies fought the 2 experts, the black-robed figure who had been hiding in the nearby forest watched. "It looks like there's no need for me to make a move. The 2 little guys from Cloud Sea Asgard can kill Jian Wushuang," the man thought. His face was completely concealed by his robe. "Tut, Jian Wushuang is amazing. It's a pity that he follows the ancient sect and has become Xian Yi's personal disciple. Xian Yi has fostered 3 monsters, so no one will allow him to bring up the 4th one. What a pity! A peerless genius will die," the black-robed figure murmured. Abruptly, he looked at the battlefield with an odd expression. Here comes another expert from the Immortal dynasty. Hee hee, things are getting interesting. Chapter 709, Trap! Trap! Chapter 709, Trap! Trap! On the battlefield, under the bold offensive from Wu Dao and Dao Mei, both of Jian Wushuang's original bodies plateaued and were defeated. Right at that moment, a figure dashed out of the jungle and appeared on the battlefield. Very busy here, I see. A burly man wrapped in black robes, and a foul mood showed up. Long Tao. Wu Dao and Dao Mei eyes widened and jaws dropped in shock when they saw the man. Jian Wushuang looked at him as well. Long Tao, a genius disciple from the Immortal dynasty, was a superior divine realm expert whose battle strength rivaled Wu Dao. What are you doing here? Wu Dao said, staring coldly at Long Tao. I just passed by and noticed the energy fluctuations, so I thought I'd have a look. To my surprise, you two battled a disciple in the skyscraping realm level from the ancient sect. Embarrassing, to say the least, Long Tao said and laughed at them. Long Tao, you are an old disciple in the Immortal dynasty, so you shouldn't be in the Eternal Zone. Why are you still here? Dao Mei looked at Long Tao and said, If I'm correct, your purpose is the same as ours. You also wish to kill Jian Wushuang. Long Tao furrowed his brow but didn't reply. Dao Mei and Wu Dao received their answer when they saw Long Tao's reaction. Beyond doubt, Long Tao's goal was also Jian Wushuang. Since we have the same goal, how about you fight with us to kill Jian Wushuang? What say you? Dao Mei said in a lighter tone. Fight with you. Long Tao glanced and grinned at Wu Dao and Dao Mei. I can fight alongside you too, but I desire all his treasures after he is vanquished. What? Wu Dao's face reddened. Sure. Dao Mei nodded and talked to Wu Dao in a low voice. Calm down. Our task is only to kill Jian Wushuang, not to seize his treasures. Since Long Tao desires them, then just let him take what he pleases. Moreover, when Jian Wushuang is dead, Xian, you will definitely search for the murderer. It will prove safer for us to let him keep the treasures. Upon hearing that, although Wu Dao's facial muscles tightened up in unwillingness, he begrudgingly nodded. Good. Then let us work together to kill this ancient sect genius, Long Tao said, a cunning grin spreading across his face. Wu Dao and Dao Mei nodded solemnly. The next moment, these three all turned to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's world body and slaughter body stood side by side and stared coldly at Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao. It seems in the Eternal Zone, not only the Cloud Sea Asgard, but also the Immortal dynasty wants me dead. I wonder what the attitude of Boundless Demon Sect is. Jian Wushuang thought, but didn't worry about the crisis at all. I only planned to trick the Cloud Sea Asgard, but since the Immortal dynasty joins us, then that's not my fault. His eyes beamed with bloodlust. The next moment, the Emperor's sword glided toward the void. Boom! The dazzling sword light cut the clouds. It seemed it would split the sky down the middle. Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao all stood in bewilderment. They didn't comprehend Jian Wushuang's intentions. What's this kid doing? Wu Dao sneered. However, when the heavy footsteps reverberated through the void, his smile froze. As the footsteps grew nearer, hundreds of giant creatures popped up from the dense jungle. These giants all stood taller than 3 meters. Most of them gleamed bronze with only a few silver. The most obvious giant was the one enveloped by a golden light. It was gigantic and towered almost 10 meters. Demon gods. A large number of demon gods, full 10. 4 of them were silver-armored, and 1 was the gold-armored demon god. These demon gods popped up from the jungle. The next moment, they flew towards Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao. Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao, 3 superior divine realm experts, gawked in shock. Pure shock. They wandered the Eternal Zone for a long time and fought demon gods, including silver-armored demon gods, many times. However, they realized how terrifying these demon gods were. Usually, the battle strength of a silver-armored demon god was on par with theirs, or even stronger. Fortunately, the demon gods were all separated at the outside layer. That gave them a chance to break through one by one. It took them 7 days to defeat them and also gain some demon god essence blood. But now, they never imagined this scenario. God, so many demon gods gathered together, including 4 silver-armored and 1 gold-armored demon god. The gold-armored demon god, the best among the demon gods. They wandered for so many days, yet it was their first time witnessing a gold-armored demon god. These demon gods are drawn by Jian Wushuang. Dao Mei glared at Jian Wushuang. Before Jian Wushuang split the sky with his sword, they were all confused. But now, as they faced these demon gods, they understood what he did. Trap! A trap! Dao Mei roared suddenly. It's a trap! That bastard! Jian Wushuang works with these demon gods. Long Tao said furiously, How is this possible? Why do these demon gods aid him? Wu Dao said in disbelief. But even though it proved difficult for them to accept, such was a fact. The demon gods flew to the battlefield. They ignored Jian Wushuang's 2 original bodies and instead rushed towards him. Run! Run! They ignored Jian Wushuang and ran away without hesitation. Run! Now, it's far too late for that. Jian Wushuang stared at the 3 fleeing and clasped his hands. He set this trap for Wu Dao and Dao Mei, but to his surprise, Long Tao fell into it as well. The trap was very simple. He used himself as the target to attract Wu Dao and Dao Mei. Then he negotiated for the demon gods to rip them to shreds. It was a simple plan, but Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and even Long Tao wouldn't know the demon god clan allied themselves with him. That was why they fell into the trap. Chapter 710 Gold-Armored Demon God. Chapter 710 Gold-Armored Demon God. Eternal Zone was home to a massive community of demon gods. The demon gods here were only some from the outer layer. They received messages from Gu Qiong and Gu Jing and then rushed to fight. When Jian Wushuang launched the signal, they immediately rushed them. Jian Wushuang also recognized there were hundreds of demon gods coming. However, to his surprise, a gold-armored demon god showed up first. Gold-armored demon god. Jian Wushuang stared at the demonic creature. At 10 meters tall, the demon's huge legs exploded with speed inconsistent to its frame. Its speed far exceeded that of the superior divine realm experts. This demonic monstrosity was the first to bear down on Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao. People from outside the Eternal Zone die. The gold-armored demon god howled and waved his golden giant hammer, which was like a small mountain hurtling towards Long Tao. The giant hammer flew through the void and boomed loudly. Long Tao's expression changed dramatically. However, as a superior divine realm expert and the core disciple of the Immortal dynasty, Long Tao remained confident in his strength. He waved his giant axe and exploited his strongest secret skill and unique skill. He swung the axe, opposing the gold-armored demon god defiantly. The giant axe exploded with tremendous power, truly his greatest defensive power. However, when the golden giant hammer collided with the giant axe, it was like an elephant trampling an ant. They were worlds apart. Long Tao's giant axe, touted as a powerful divine weapon, shattered in blow from the golden giant hammer. After that, the incredible power from the hammer walloped Long Tao. Bang! A muffled sound. Long Tao exploded into bloody fog. A terrifying hammer indeed. So powerful. Wu Dao and Dao Mei watched in horror. The gold-armored demon gods' strength shocked even Jian Wushuang. only one attack and the hammer outclassed the giant axe and eviscerated Long Tao. Its power almost matched the ordinary experts in the Eternal Realm. A black-robed figure in the dark witnessed the fight in amazement. The Demon God clan is divided into 3 different levels, including copper-armored Demon God, silver-armored Demon God, and gold-armored Demon God. These 3 levels represent different bloodlines. The copper-armored is weaker than the silver-armored, but there is a huge gap between the gold-armored and the silver-armored. The strength of a gold-armored Demon God and the Divine Realm Expert level usually are close to the experts in the Eternal Realm. Even for me, it will prove very difficult to defeat this gold-armored Demon God. These 3 guys are so unlucky to meet a gold-armored Demon God who possesses an eternal weapon. The black-robed figure was certainly well-informed. Moreover, it would be better if the gold-armored Demon God was only on the Divine Realm Expert level. But if he was on the Eternal Realm level, then that would prove nightmarish for them. In the inner layer, the Eternal Realm Experts from the Firmament Territory were only able to fight the silver-armored Demon Gods in the Eternal Realm level. If they met a gold-armored Demon God, they ran away as quick as possible. The gold-armored Demon Gods represented the highest bloodline in the Demon God clan, so their numbers were small. It was rare to meet them. Unfortunately, Wu Dao, Dao Mei, and Long Tao met a gold-armored Demon God in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone. It seems I need to do it by myself. The black-robed man slightly raised his head and showed an evil look. On the battlefield, the gold-armored Demon God killed Long Tao with his hammer. The next moment, his huge body turned into a dazzling golden light and shot to Wu Dao and Dao Mei. Wu Dao and Dao Mei were both terrified and immediately ran away without hesitation. Dao Mei's figure transformed into a saber shape enveloped by a thunder light. He split the air and quickly ran away. His speed was at least twice as fast. However, his opponent was not only one gold-armored Demon God, but also hundreds of silver-armored and copper-armored Demon Gods. These Demon Gods all rushed to kill him from different angles. Like right now, there was a silver-armored Demon God in front of Dao Mei. Gu Yan met Jian Wushuang before. You wish to escape. Gu Yan said it with a cold voice. He held 2 heavy mazes and utilized them well. When Dao Mei appeared, he threw the 2 mazes. In an instant, the gas exploded and disoriented Dao Mei. Damn you! Dao Mei looked terrible. Gu Yan stopped him, but he desperately wanted to escape. However, Gu Yan possessed the tremendous power of his mazes and also showed his terrifying offensive abilities, and soon, Dao Mei was in a bad situation. Not to mention running away. He was hopelessly trapped by Gu Yan. The next moment, there were a few copper-armored Demon Gods and 1 silver-armored Demon God rushing to kill him. Many Demon Gods surrounded Dao Mei, making escape impossible. As for Wu Dao, he knew how to protect himself better than Dao Mei. Since the gold-armored Demon God chased him and a few Demon Gods stood in front of him, Wu Dao shook his figure. Then the blood surged. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, Wu Dao multiplied into 9 clones. These 9 Wu Dao's appearance and aura mirrored each other. What is this? Jian Wushuang stood in the distance and took no action. He squinted at Wu Dao's 9 bodies. One person can transform to 9 doppelgangers. But the aura doppelgangers are weak. It should cost him a lot to cultivate this transformation. This should be the life-saving secret skill that only works for a short time. Wu Dao's doppelgangers were completely different from the real doppelganger secret skill. Doppelganger's secret skill maintained the doppelganger forever. They could even go fight and retrieve the treasure. Like Xian Yi, he was in the Sword Palace, but his doppelganger represented him to handle different things. But even that was just a doppelganger, yet no one dared look down upon it. But Wu Dao's doppelganger was used to deceive his opponent, so in essence it was only a secret skill utilized when fleeing. Chapter 711, Dramatic Change. Chapter 711, Dramatic Change. Wu Dao multiplied into 9 different doppelgangers and fled with haste. His speed blinded the others. The demon gods chasing him, including the gold-armored demon god, were not able to recognize his original body, so they needed to kill the doppelgangers first. Almost instantly, the demon gods killed 6 of his clones. However, 3 of them escaped. The gold-armored demon god noticed one clone and quickly pursued. As for Dao Mei, he wasn't able to defend, so the 2 silver-armored demon gods and several copper-armored demon gods killed him. So far, 3 people who desired to kill Jian Wushuang, Dao Mei and Long Tao, were already dead. Wu Dao escaped, but was seriously injured. He was still pursued, not sure if he could escape safely from the encroaching demonic adversaries. Jian Wushuang was very satisfied with the results. It was a good scheme. Wushuang brother, Gu Qiong said. Both of Jian Wushuang's original bodies looked at Gu Qiong. However, when he turned his head, the black-robed figure in the dark materialized. He was like a ghost. Both Jian Wushuang and demon gods hadn't noticed him before. Gu Qiong noticed the black-robed man first. "Watch out!" Gu Qiong yelled. "What?" Jian Wushuang shuddered in horror. The feeling of being on the edge of life and death was all too familiar for him. A flash of cold, blade light popped up behind him and stabbed his slaughter body. The slaughter body didn't have time to react, and before the cold, blade light pierced his chest. His body wasn't able to defend. Soon his heart shattered, and the slaughter body died. After killing Jian Wushuang's slaughter body, the blade light slashed towards his world body. Obviously, the black-robed figure planned to kill both of Jian Wushuang's original bodies. The cold blade light still gleamed after killing the slaughter body and moved surprisingly fast. Jian Wushuang's hairs all stood up since he had been born, and until now he encountered numerous dangers, but it was very rare for him to be this close to death. Facing this life and death crisis, Jian Wushuang calmed. He stared at the cold blade light. "Fast! I need to be faster!" He tried his best to pivot his body. Now, if he wanted to survive, he needed to be faster than the blade light. Chi! The blade light flew through Jian Wushuang's world body and caused a scarlet. His arm severed in 2. Despite losing one arm, Jian Wushuang survived the deadly attack. Eternal Realm! He withdrew and steadily stared at the black-robed figure. From the aura which the black-robed man emitted, Jian Wushuang realized he was a real Eternal Realm expert. And he was also a human expert. An Eternal Realm expert should have wandered in the inner layer of the Eternal Zone, but not the outer layer. This person was not only in the outer layer, but also attacked him without considering his position. Moreover, it was a stealthy one at that. This sudden slash killed his slaughter body and cut one of his world body's arms. If Jian Wushuang was not calm enough, both of his original bodies would have perished. Then he really would be dead. Escaped successfully. The black-robed man raised his head and showed an old, yet evil face. He stared at Jian Wushuang. Obviously, he didn't think Jian Wushuang could survive such an attack. Even though you can escape one attack, I don't think you will be safe after a second. The evil black-robed elder radiated confidence. He soon turned into an illusion and slashed towards Jian Wushuang. His speed was far quicker than the Divine Realm experts. Damn it! What an outside bastard! Stop! A roar sounded abruptly. Gu Qiong popped up in front of the black-robed elder. His muscles bulged and blue veins burst. He waved his giant axe and slashed towards the black-robed elder. Gu Qiong brother. Jian Wushuang was shocked. "You want to die?" The black-robed elder flashed a trace of disdain and drew his saber. Boom! Gu Qiong's giant axe flew out, and the power of the blade light hit his body. Even though Gu Qiong was a demon god with a resilient body, his opponent was a real Eternal Realm expert. Facing this expert, his body was thinner than a piece of paper. The blade light slashed through Gu Qiong and severed his body. He died almost instantly. No, Jian Wushuang's expression changed dramatically. Although he only knew Gu Qiong for a few days, Gu Qiong was honest and forthright. He felt comfortable and cordial and meshed with him very well. In those few days, Gu Qiong treated him like a brother. During the dangerous crisis, he knew his strength was not enough to defend the attack, but he still rushed forward and stopped it for Jian Wushuang. Although it was only one moment, it gave Jian Wushuang a chance to escape. "Run, Wushuang brother," Gu Qiong said, roaring in a low rumble before falling down. Jian Wushuang turned scarlet and his eyes filled with rage. He glanced at Gu Qiong and clenched his teeth. Dragon blood secret skill. Jian Wushuang growled, and his body also emitted a low voice. Soon his spiritual power burned quickly. Xian Yi Palace Master gave him the dragon blood secret skill to protect himself. The secret skill burned his own spiritual power aggressively, but it increased his speed dramatically in a short time. The first level of the dragon blood secret skill burned the spiritual power a bit slower, but his speed multiplied by 10. The second level burned his spiritual power very quickly, but his speed increased hundreds of times in a short time. Now, Jian Wushuang exploited the second level of the dragon blood secret skill. His spiritual power burned immensely as well as his speed. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang withdrew, and his terrifying speed exploded. Chapter 712 Dragon Blood Secret Skill. Chapter 712 Dragon Blood Secret Skill. This speed. The black-robed elder witnessed Jian Wushuang's speed in shock, but soon snorted. A black gas surged as he sped up and chased Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang ran, and the black-robed elder chased, and soon they both disappeared on the battlefield. As for the demon gods, including 4 silver-armored demon gods, they just realized and saw the black-robed elder chasing Jian Wushuang. They also wanted to help, but Jian Wushuang and the elder were far too fast. Even though they could catch up, they were only the copper-armored and the silver-armored demon gods, so they wouldn't be able to ward against the black-robed elder's attack. The only one who could help was the gold-armored demon god, but he chased Wu Dao, making it impossible. Therefore, Jian Wushuang could only rely on himself. In the dense jungle, Jian Wushuang ran in a frenzy. His eyes were full of rage, but more of it was self-blame and guilt. "It's my fault. I caused Gu Qiong's death." Jian Wushuang clasped his hands. In order to give him a chance to escape, the black-robed elder killed Gu Qiong. It could be said that Gu Qiong saved Jian Wushuang by sacrificing himself. He owed Gu Qiong his life. The old man, Jian Wushuang, turned to look at the black-robed elder, who still pursued him. He didn't know the elder, but before entering the Eternal Zone, he saw him in the Boundless Demon sect camp. So, that meant he was from the Boundless Demon sect. The black-robed elder and the other experts from different sects entered the inner layer of the Eternal Zone through the wormhole. However, this black-robed elder infiltrated through to the outer layer to kill him. I already knew 3 magnates would attack me, but I thought they would only be the disciples in the superior divine realm expert level. To my surprise, the Boundless Demon sect assigned an eternal realm expert sneaked out from the inner layer to kill me. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He tried to conceal his strength to make the 3 magnate experts ignore him, so he gained an opportunity to defend. Like the Cloud Sea Asgard and the Immortal Dynasty, they both assigned their disciples to kill him. So he worked with the Demon God clan to defeat them. However, he never believed an eternal realm expert would return. He missed this point, so he caused Gu Qiong's death, and he was also in a dilemma. Boundless Demon Sect. Great. Jian Wushuang laughed, with bloodlust in his voice. But even his hatred and rage he had to endure. The urgent task now was to save his life. Jian Wushuang's spiritual power burned bright. It was 10 times faster than when he fought. Although his speed increased dramatically, he couldn't maintain it for long. I cultivated the heavenly creation skill, so my spiritual power is more than the other same level's warriors. However, since the burning speed is so fast, I cannot withstand it for long. But the old man, Jian Wushuang, saw the black-robed elder behind him. The black-robed elder radiated black gas. Obviously, he also exploited the secret skill to increase his speed. Moreover, he completely exploited the skill to speed up. He was as fast as Jian Wushuang. He followed Jian Wushuang closely, so Jian Wushuang couldn't lose him. This is really bad. Jian Wushuang squinted. In the Eternal Zone, he couldn't use any message tokens. Also, his slaughter body was dead. Now, he tried his best to exploit the Dragon Blood secret skill, but still couldn't escape. What can I do? What else can I do? Deep down, Jian Wushuang remained calm, but he was desperately looking for an opening to escape. Suddenly, at the very end of his line of sight, he saw a territory covered in a pale, golden light. The inner layer of the Eternal Zone. Inner layer. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Lingyu, the vice palace master, told him that the inner layer was the demon god's home, so it was very dangerous. The Eternal Realm experts needed to be very careful, and the Divine Realm couldn't survive there. But that was only for the other warriors. Jian Wushuang was different. After all, his aura was similar to the demon gods, so they treated him as their clansman. For other people, the inner layer proved very dangerous, but for him it might be a blessing. Go to the inner layer. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang endured the pain of the spiritual power burning and rushed to the inner layer of the Eternal Zone. Behind him, the black-robed elder still pursued. This kid has such a good escape skill. I've completely exploited my secret skill. But I only can follow him. Still can't catch him. The black-robed elder stared at Jian Wushuang with his cold eyes. But this secret skill costs his spiritual power. He is only a skyscraping realm, so he doesn't have endless spiritual power. Soon, when his spiritual power fades, then I would like to see what he can do. The black-robed elder acted casual, but he handled it painstakingly. After all, here was the Eternal Zone. Not to mention the demon gods, there were lots of disciples from different sects. If they saw him chasing Jian Wushuang and told the ancient sect, Xian, he would be furious and he would be in mortal danger. But he was in a black robe and also covered his face. Even though people saw him, they couldn't recognize him at a distance. At this moment, the black-robed elder saw a territory covered in a pale, golden light in front of him. This kid, he wants to get into the inner layer? He really has guts. The black-robed elder's face clouded over. In the inner layer, it was the home for the demon god clan, so he didn't dare enter without a decent plan. Besides, there were numerous Eternal Realm experts, including the 8 Eternal Realm experts from the ancient sect. They were all at the edge of the inner layer. Based on his strength, he could do whatever he wanted in the outer layer. But the inner layer? No, that was more complicated. Chapter 713, Jet Black Arrow. Chapter 713, Jet Black Arrow. I have to kill him even into the inner layer, no matter what. The black-robed elder radiated a huge killing intent. If Jian Wushuang kept hesitating, the elder would not stop until he managed to kill him. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures, one after another, appeared on the edge of the pale gold lightning and directly rushed into the inner layer. There, the endless jungle had disappeared and had been replaced by an immense wilderness, where the black-robed elder was chasing Jian Wushuang, who was absconding like crazy with no effort. Short after intruding the inner layer, Jian Wushuang found his spiritual power had run out. Even though he had taken many elixirs to regain some on the run, he burned much more than what he recovered. even with his spiritual power was exhausted, the dragon blood's secret skill continued to burn. However, now instead of consuming his spiritual power, what burnt was Jian Wushuang's own blood. With the blood in Jian Wushuang's body burning wildly, his heart felt a sudden pain. Damn it! Jian Wushuang's body seemed like it was about to melt under the torment of the pain, and he couldn't stop cursing wildly. Despite all of this, he was still escaping like a madman. He would never give up when his life was in danger, even in such an impasse. Haha, young man, are you okay? The black-robed elder behind Jian Wushuang sneered, finally aware of Jian Wushuang's odd complexion. Don't struggle anymore. Get ready for your death. It won't be so painful if you die, the black-robed elder said in a cold voice. But at this time, something strange happened. Swoosh! A streak of black light plunged into the air at an amazing speed, quickly reaching the black-robed elder. What's this? When the light appeared in front of him, the black-robed elder finally saw it clearly, and a strange look appeared on his face. That was a pure black arrow with an evil aura. Who shot the arrow? The black-robed elder was terrified. He could feel the horror emanating from the arrow, although he failed to find who was the archer. The jet-black arrow directly hit the chest of the black-robed elder old man at an amazingly fast speed. The elder had no time to dodge and could only wave his black dagger in a great rush. The dagger chopped at the arrowhead, trying to force it back or change its direction. However, the power of the sudden arrow skyrocketed when it collided with the dagger, and then it shocked the dagger away and continued straight at the black-robed elder. This is not good. The black-robed elder was startled and desperately moved. At the same time, a lot of spiritual powers gathered and formed many layers of shields in front of him. Bang! 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 The jet-black arrow broke all of them effortlessly and eventually hit its target. However, the black-robed elder shook his body at the last moment, and his left shoulder was pierced by the arrow instead of his heart. What a horrible shot! Who did it? Looking at the arrow inserted on his left shoulder, the black-robed elder feared and cast his eyes on the direction from where the jet-black arrow came in a great hurry. Immediately, he saw a middle-aged hairy man on a slightly raised hill, who was wrapped in simple animal skin and held a longbow with a basket of arrows on his back, staring at him with sharp, eagle-like eyes. You outsider do have a quick reaction, the middle-aged man said, but the next moment his body shook suddenly, making the black-robed elder panic again. He transformed from a normal human to a 5 meters body in a flash. His hands and feet became extremely brawny with pieces of muscles upheaved. His whole body skin turned into silver. Silver-armored demon god. Silver-armored demon god of the eternal realm. At that sight, the black-robed elder was greatly frightened. Even the weakest copper-armored demon god was much stronger than any ordinary warrior, especially on raw attacking power and strength. He would be unsure about fighting against a copper-armored demon god. But now, in front of him was a silver-armored demon god of the eternal realm, which made him lose all hope. The once middle-aged-looking man once again drew the big bow. When the demon god was drawing the big bow, a horrible power began to converge. The power locked the black-robed elder in a flash, which made him turn pale and frightened. Run! He had no time to chase after Jian Wushuang, but immediately turned back and fled like crazy. The moment he tried to run, the middle-aged man's right hand quickly released the bow. A streak of sparkling black light ejected with a bounce and chased up the elder at a staggering speed, just like a huge comet dragging a long tail. The black-robed elder tried his best to escape. However, the black light finally caught up with him and shot directly towards his chest. The black-robed elder had nothing to do but turn around to withstand it with all his strength, even in virtue of one of his most precious treasures, a copper clock. Although the copper clock protected the black-robed elder's life by covering his body, it was shattered by the arrow in an instant, barely giving his owner a little bit of time to escape his unavoidable fate. The black-robed elder used this opportunity to escape from the sight of the middle-aged man. It was better to be alive without a treasure than dead. These outsiders do have a lot of tricks to save their lives. It's really hard to kill them. The silver-armored demon, God, shook his head and sighed. Then his body shocked again and diminished into the original hairy middle-aged man. After that, he came straight to Jian Wushuang. At that moment, Jian Wushuang had burnt out of all spiritual powers and half of his blood. It was so miserable. He fell down to the ground with only a hint of consciousness, but unable to move. When the middle-aged man walked towards him, Jian Wushuang cast his eyes to the man. Chapter 714. The 10-day deadline was up. Chapter 714. The 10-day deadline was up. Good boy, are you okay? The middle-aged man looked at Jian Wushuang with goodwill. Jian Wushuang opened his mouth, but found himself without words. Well, you're badly hurt. Don't say anything. Be careful not to die. After saying that, the middle-aged man squatted down and then took a dagger from his waist, gashing Jian Wushuang's arm. Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly as he had no idea what was going on. But then, his apparent savior stretched out his right arm. Who's he? The middle-aged man whispered. In a twinkling, a wound appeared on his arm and a hideous worm with countless tentacles climbed out of it. The scarlet worm and climbed into the wound on Jian Wushuang's arm. Watching this, Jian Wushuang felt a chill on his back, but he had no strength to resist whatsoever. However, when the creature entered into his body, Jian Wushuang immediately felt limp and numb. At the same time, he also realized that the worm contained an amazing amount of vital force that gave his whole body a bunch of fresh power. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang's injury got significantly better. Afterward, the scarlet worm climbed out of his wound and returned to the middle-aged man's hand once again. You're seriously wounded. Huzi only can prevent you from getting worse. If you want to fully recover, you'd better take it easy and go slowly after your return to the clan. The middle-aged man said. Thanks, Jian Wushuang said with great efforts, but still unable to move. My name is Guyang from the 8th tribe. The middle-aged man said. I am Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang responded. The demon god's expression changed, but Guyang only said with no more questions, although he felt Jian Wushuang's name was strange. It's not far from my tribe. Let me take you back there. You can go back to your tribe once you get better. Okay? Back to my tribe? Jian Wushuang's complexion whitened. He came from the outside world. The Eternal Zone was only open for 10 days. After that, it would close again. Before he entered into the Eternal Zone, Ling Yu, the Vice Palace Master, had said that they must hasten to the edge of the outer layer once the 10-day deadline was up if they wanted to leave. But now there were only 2 days left. Jian Wushuang could not guarantee he could reach the edge of the outer layer before the deadline if he followed Guyang to the tribe where the demon god clan lived in. But I can't move at all on my current state. It's impossible to get to the edge of the outer layer. Jian Wushuang felt pained. Let's go. I can carry you on my back. Guyang said, hoisting Jian Wushuang on his back and walking towards the 8th tribe. Meanwhile, in the Eternal Zone, many outsiders from the Firmament territory were still fighting madly in order to get more demon god's essence blood. But time was limited. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Outside the Eternal Zone, above the vast ancient forest, floated 2 huge wormholes. The top 3 magnates from the Firmament territory and experts from top 9 sects strode out from one of them and gathered in crowds. Most of the experts from the Eternal Realm who had ventured in the inner layer were out of spirit energy after 10 days of combat. The number of experts was obviously reduced. Many of them had lost their lives in the inner layer. The ancient sect had dispatched 8 experts in the Eternal Realm. After the combat, the 8 experts survived, but 2 palace masters were seriously wounded. Destruction! I was told that you got a demon god baptismal pool. How is it? Immortal looked at the palace master Destruction. I failed. The palace master shook his head ashamed. What a pity. Immortal secretly praised. Those demon gods attach great importance to the demon god baptismal pool. Although there are many of them in the inner layer, each pool was guarded by a demon god. It's extremely tough to get one of those pools under their guard. Even if we are lucky enough to get it, whether we can turn into a demon god with it only depends on luck. You did get the demon god baptismal pool, but you were not lucky enough to become a demon god. What a pity. We just got some drops of demon god's essence blood, far away from getting a demon god baptismal pool. Lingyu and other people could not help sighing. Among the experts of the Eternal Realm who had ventured in the inner layer, only Zhongming from the Immortal Dynasty and Violet Fairy from the Nine Heavens sect are favored to get a demon god baptismal pool and successfully turn into a demon god. Immortal said. Immediately, several experts of the ancient sect all cast their eyes on the pair. As for those experts from other sects, they all looked at the 2 lucky dogs with envy. The demon god baptismal pool was the place where the demon god clansmen received baptism. They had to get into the baptismal pool to turn into a demon god when they grew up enough. But these human warriors also had the same chance to turn into a demon god, given that they had a part of demon god bloodline by absorbing demon god's essence blood. Every time when the Eternal Zone opened, the experts from different sects in the firmament territory came into the inner layer to adventure. All of them were after a demon god baptismal pool to get at least a chance to turn into a demon god, just like the demon god clansmen. Even if the chance was slim, their strength would get a huge boost, even if they happened to turn in just the weakest copper-armored demon god. Violet Fairy and Zhongming were successful in turning into copper-armored demon gods, which made experts from different sects admire them. They are so lucky. Immortal highly praised. You're right. The palace master Destruction nodded. Zhongming and Violet Fairy. Violet Fairy is weaker, just an ordinary expert of the Eternal Realm. I can beat her down in terms of strength, but now it will skyrocket several times as long as she turns into a copper-armored demon god. Lingyu, the Vice Palace Master, shook his head and smiled. Chapter 715, Life and Death. Chapter 715, Life and Death. Among us, only you are qualified to contend against Violet Fairy, but I'm afraid you can't defeat her. As for Zhongming, he is quite powerful by nature. Now that he has become a copper-armored demon god, even a warrior as powerful as you can't overcome him. Lingyu, the Vice Palace Master, said full of frustration. After hearing this, the Palace Master Destruction knew what he had said was true even if he was unwilling to admit it. Although Zhongming and Violet Fairy are fortunate, they are far behind from Yun Fan. Immortal said in a low voice, Yun Fan. The experts of the Eternal Realm from the ancient sect all thought of the current Great Elder of Cloud Sea Asgard, Yun Fan, and a flow of indignation emerged from their heart. Yun Fan was the sitting Great Elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, who was considered as the strongest among the Eternal Realm in the Cloud Sea Asgard experts. What bothered them was that many years ago Yun Fan had been just as strong as them, and the Palace Master Destruction had been even much more powerful than Yun Fan at that time. Just because of the Eternal Zone expedition that happened then, however, Yun Fan had been so lucky to get a demon god baptismal pool and successfully turn into a silver-armored demon god with its help. That was much more formidable than a simple copper-armored demon god. Since then, Yun Fan made an earth-shaking progress and became the strongest expert of the Eternal Realm in the Cloud Sea Asgard, only ranked behind Xian Yi, Palace Master of the ancient sect among the experts of the Eternal Realm in the whole firmament territory. Other experts of the Eternal Realm, even those who turned into copper-armored demon gods, were still miles away from Yun Fan. He had been so lucky that time. There were so many experts in the firmament territory, but till now Yun Fan was the only one who had managed to turn into a silver-armored demon god by virtue of a demon god baptismal pool. Luck is also part of someone's strength. We have no choice but to wait for the next opportunity. Fortunately, the Eternal Zone will open every 100 years, which is not too much for us. The Palace Master Destruction said helplessly. That's right. Other experts of the Eternal Realm nodded in agreement. Suddenly, a burst of light emerged from the other wormhole. These little guys are coming out of the Eternal Zone. What have they gotten? Let's see. Most of the present experts of the Eternal Realm were full of expectation. As rays of light raised, many disciples of the Divine Realm strode from the wormhole. Although they were tired out after the 10-day fight, they had made some gains just for surviving in the Eternal Zone. Those disciples strode out of the wormhole one by one. Among the 6 disciples of the ancient sect, Lu Chong, Feng, Donger, and Luo Yong walked out from the Eternal Zone. Boy, what have you got? The Palace Master Destruction asked one of his best disciples with a smile. I got 3 drops of Demon God's essence blood, Feng answered. 3 drops? Very good. The Palace Master Destruction nodded with satisfaction. Those demon gods are quite strong. Even the weakest copper-armored demon god is a tough opponent among the advanced demon gods. Although they are clumsy and not good at fast movements, their bodies are quite strong to be killed. You still manage to get 3 drops of demon god's essence blood only in 10 days. Very good. It's true. It's not easy to kill those demon gods. I really spared great efforts to find one FO them alone, but failed to kill him in more than half an hour. A disciple from the cloud, C. Asgard, rushed to finish him off and got the demon god's essence blood. Luo Yong said bitterly, who only got 1 drop of demon god's essence blood. Donger, as powerful as Luo Yong, was lucky and got 2 drops. When it came to Lu Chong, he was a superior divine realm expert with great strength, so he got more demon god's essence blood, 6 drops in total. Jian Wushuang and Situ haven't come out yet. I wonder what they have gained in the Eternal Zone. The Palace Master Destruction showed a slight smile. But this time, as light raised again, an awkward figure strode out from the wormhole. Most of the experts and disciples showed a strange look when they looked at the figure. He was Wu Dao from the Cloud Sea Asgard. Wu Dao was the strongest among the 3 superior divine realm experts who entered the Eternal Zone, even one of the best among the divine realm experts in the Cloud Sea Asgard. Logically, it should be very easy for him to make a breakthrough in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone. But now he was as pale as death and his aura was weak to the extreme. It was obvious that he was seriously wounded. The experts from the Cloud Sea Asgard all frowned and quickly walked towards Wu Dao. One leading elder among them asked in a low voice, Wu Dao, what happened? Distinguished elders, I and junior brother Dao Mei were tricked by Jian Wushuang. Wu Dao said with a grudge, and then he narrated what he had gone through in the Eternal Zone. What? Did you just say that Jian Wushuang plotted against you too, along with the demon god clan? The elders from the Cloud Sea Asgard were shocked. Right. Wu Dao nodded solemnly. Are you sure that Jian Wushuang joined hands with those demon gods, and they did not just happen to attack Jian Wushuang too? The leading elder asked again. I'm not sure. Those demon gods did attack me and junior brother, Dao Mei, rather than Jian Wushuang. Wu Dao replied, How about Jian Wushuang? Do you see him? The elder made a detailed inquiry. No. Wu Dao nodded. Really? The elder thought for a while, and then he claimed, well, let it go. No matter whether Jian Wushuang is alive or dead, you must say you never met Jian Wushuang in the Eternal Zone if someone asks you. Yes. Wu Dao nodded seriously. Many disciples of the divine realm came out from the wormhole, one after another. After about an hour, all the experts who had survived in the Eternal Zone were almost out. Only less than 60 disciples finally came out from the Eternal Zone among the original 80 disciples from the 3 magnates and top 9 sections. There were 2 noticeable sections. One was the Cloud Sea Asgard, which dispatched 3 superior divine realm experts to the Eternal Zone. But Wu Dao was the only one who survived but suffered serious injuries. Another attractive sect was the ancient sect. Jian Wushuang, a peerless genius that scared all sects, who was tutored by Xian Yi, palace master of the ancient sect, had not shown up his face from the Eternal Zone yet. But the wormhole was going to close. Chapter 716, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 1. Chapter 716, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 1. Finally, the 2 wormholes that connected to the Eternal Zone finished closing and completely disappeared from sight. The whole area was filled with silence. Jian Wushuang didn't come out. The 8 eternal real experts from the ancient sect seemed confounded for a moment. If someone didn't leave the Eternal Zone in time, death was the only remaining possibility. Even if he was not dead yet, the Eternal Zone would not be open for another 100 years. How could a person survive there for 100 years? Even experts of Eternal Realm like them would not be able to survive there for that long. Shit. The 8 ancient sect experts of Eternal Realm, including Feng, Lu Chong, and the other disciples, looked rather grim. Even though among the 6 ancient sect disciples who entered the Eternal Zone, Situ, he also didn't make it out in time. Jian Wushuang was much more important than Situ Yi. Jian Wushuang was an incredibly peerless genius and the personal disciple of Xian Yi. As long as he didn't die early, he was almost guaranteed to reach the Eternal Realm, and he even had a very good chance of becoming a Dao Master. But Jian Wushuang had not exited from the Eternal Zone. The surrounding experts from each sect remained silent at this time, but the looks they gave each other said everything. Good. Jian Wushuang died in the Eternal Zone. The ancient sect will definitely suffer a loss with his absence. The ancient sect? The ancient sect may have suffered a loss, but the issue is that Jian Wushuang is a personal disciple of Xian Yi. Now, with his youngest disciple dead, he might go crazy. I think there is something odd about his death, though. Shush! We all understand, but we don't dare to say it out loud. Let's see what happens. Xian Yi is not someone we can offend. Although he seems to be a good-tempered man who treats others kindly, he's unstoppable when he becomes angry. The trip to the Eternal Zone had come to an end. However, the experts of the top sects were in no hurry to leave because they were curious to see what would happen next. They all knew that Xian Yi would never let the death of Jian Wushuang with just that. At this moment, many different ideas were racing through the minds of the 3 magnates in the area where the boundless demon sect was. And Chao, did you kill Jian Wushuang? The Eternal Realm experts from the boundless demon sect had gathered together and were looking at a pale-faced, black-robed elder. This black-robed person was the one who had chased Jian Wushuang into the inner layer of the Eternal Zone. He was in Chao, an elder of the boundless demon sect. The arrow from Guiyang had left a wound on him. I did injure him and even managed to kill his doppelganger, but I wasn't able to confirm his death. And Chao frowned and said the kid had a remarkable escape skill. At the cost of burning his spiritual power, he was able to instantly increase his speed by 100 times within a short period. Even while using my full power, I was only able to keep up with him. He eventually fled to the inner layer. I did follow after him, but I came across a silver-armored demon god in the Eternal Realm before I managed to kill him. The silver-armored demon god, terrifyingly powerful, so I was forced to use my trump card just to survive. So, what you're saying is that you didn't witness Jian Wushuang's death, right? Another elder of the Boundless Demon sect asked. Yes. And Chao nodded and continued. However, he's definitely dead. He burned up all of his spiritual power and even started burning his blood. Definitely dead. The elders of Boundless Demon sect laughed. An elder said, the Eternal Zone is already very dangerous, and he even entered the inner layer, which is a death trap. He has to be dead. Yes, those demon gods utterly hate us outsiders. There's no doubt that they would kill him on sight, the elder beside him echoed. Hopefully, and Chao nodded slightly, but there was an awful premonition hidden deep in his heart. After all, he had seen Jian Wushuang working together with those demon gods to kill Wu Dao and the others. But other than Jian Wushuang, these demon gods hated all outsiders. In the area where the ancient sect was, the 8 Eternal Realm experts had gathered together. Palace Master Destruction began to inform the sect that Jian Wushuang had not made it out of the Eternal Zone, and he had just finished telling Xian Yi. After Xian Yi heard the news, he was silent for a moment before quickly replying, I see. My doppelganger will arrive soon. Before it gets there, make sure you don't let any of the 3 magnates leave. I understand. Palace Master Destruction nodded. After he finished delivering the news, Palace Master Destruction sighed in relief, but he could sense Xian Yi's anger in those last few words he said. It seems like someone is going to suffer a lot. Palace Master Destruction sighed while looking toward the experts of the 3 magnates with pity in his eyes, but he immediately spoke. Everyone from Cloud Sea Asgard, the Immortal Dynasty, and the Boundless Demon Sect. After hearing his words, the experts of the 3 magnates had unnaturally fearful expressions on their faces. Anyone who even knew a little about his past would be fearful of Palace Master Xian Yi. Xian Yi is the strongest Eternal Realm expert in the Firmament Territory. The elder from Cloud Sea Asgard, Lady Red, clasped both of her hands as various stories about Xian Yi began to run through her mind. Literally, he is a monster. It's very rare for him to personally make a move, but once he does, that person will not meet a good end no matter who they are. No one knows how powerful he is because he has never used his full power. He's always been an unfathomable and unpredictable individual. Many years ago, our palace master came to blows with Xian Yi, but after that, our palace master ordered us not to offend Xian Yi. As far as I know, our palace master merely fought with Xian Yi's doppelganger that time. In addition, it is well known that Yuan is not the type to get angry easily. However, if provoked, he can create a massacre. More importantly, he usually defends his disciples. Now, with his youngest disciple dead, even if he has no evidence that it was Cloud Sea Asgard that killed Jian Wushuang, he would not just let it go. Upon hearing his words, many experts of in Cloud Sea Asgard had an even grimmer expression on their faces. In the Immortal Dynasty and the Boundless Demon Sect, the Eternal Realm experts also looked solemn. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the air above them. When she saw the figure suddenly appear, Lady Red Elder took a deep breath and she looked around. Then, a low and deep voice spread about. Everyone, prepare yourselves and make sure to stay behind me while we face Xian Yi's wrath. Chapter 717, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 2. Chapter 717, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 2. In the air above them, a gigantic, purple-haired man slowly emerged, and dead silence immediately reigned over the whole area. The strongest Eternal Realm expert in the Firmament Territory, Ancient Sect Palace Master Xian Yi from Sword Palace, had arrived. When the experts of the 3 magnates and the other 8 top sects saw Xian Yi, they realized that his face didn't have the usual mild expression. Instead, he looked slightly ferocious. They all began to feel frightened at this moment. The name of people and the shadow of trees. Xian Yi was famous in the Firmament Territory, and he was a nightmare for most of the Eternal Realm experts in the Firmament territory. Even though it was only his doppelganger, it still possessed unprecedented power. Jian Wushuang, he was my disciple, Xian Yi said, in a voice that did not display any emotions. Although he was only in the skyscraping realm, his strength was extraordinary. It would not be a problem at all for him to pass through the Eternal Zone, but he died in the end. Cloud Sea Asgard, Immortal Dynasty, and Boundless Demon Sect. You, the three magnates, should give me an explanation, shouldn't you? Explanation? What explanation? Lady Red, the elder who was leading the Cloud Sea Asgard group, snorted and continued. The Eternal Zone is full of dangers. Even Eternal Realm experts can face death there, let alone those disciples in the skyscraping realm and the divine realm. Even one of the elders from our Cloud Sea Asgard fell last time. We, Cloud Sea Asgard, had more disciples die this time. Among the three who were in the superior divine realm, there was only one who came back alive. We also lost so much. So who should we go to for an explanation? Life and death, poor or rich, it's all destined. Your disciple has died in the Eternal Zone. The person you should blame is the one who is not strong enough. Who else is there to blame? The red-robed elder spoke in an unhurried manner, and the experts of Cloud Sea Asgard, as well as the other two magnates, nodded along with him. Oh! Xian erased his eyebrows, but his voice grew cold. If my disciple really was killed by those demon gods, then I have nothing to say. However, before he finished, Xian Yi's figure suddenly faded away. But when his figure appeared again, he had already grabbed someone's hand. And that person was Wu Dao. Xian Yi, what are you going to do? All of the experts of Cloud Sea Asgard were extremely surprised. Xian entirely ignored them, and a purple light flashed in his eyes. Then he looked towards Wu Dao. Wu Dao looked back at Xian Yi, but his eyes immediately grew empty. Tell me, did you see my disciple in the Eternal Zone? Xian Yi asked. Yes, Wu Dao nodded dully. This scene greatly shocked everyone in the surroundings. What? The Eternal Realm experts in Cloud Sea Asgard looked surprised, and the expressions on their faces suddenly changed. They were all aware of what had happened. Wu Dao was completely under Xian Yi's control. He had taken over his mind directly, so Wu Dao was not even conscious of what was happening. All he could do was answer Xian Yi's questions slowly and honestly. How was he doing it? What an incredibly odd technique. Have the elders of Cloud Sea Asgard ordered you to kill my disciple? Xian Yi continued to ask. Yes. Wu Dao continued to answer in a dull manner. Shit. Damn it. What? The Eternal Realm experts in Cloud Sea Asgard all began to panic. They knew beforehand that Xian Yi would be furious when they killed Jian Wushuang. However, no matter how mad he was, Xian Yi wouldn't completely lose it as long as he wasn't able to find evidence proving that they did it. But they never expected Xian Yi to have a method that directly controlled someone's mind. They had underestimated Xian Yi. What happened? Xian Yi continued to ask. I found him, along with my junior brother, Dao Mei. We should have been able to kill him, but a group of demon gods appeared out of nowhere, so we could only escape. Dao Mei was killed by those demon gods, and I narrowly escaped because of secret skill, Wu Dao said dully. I see. Xian nodded and immediately let go of Wu Dao. Wu Dao quickly came back to his senses, then looked around blankly and said, What happened? What happened to me? He had absolutely no idea what had happened. At this moment, Xian Yi looked toward the experts of Cloud Sea Asgard with his ice-cold eyes. Cloud Sea Asgard, do you have anything you want to say now? Xian Yi's voice grew cold. Lady Red was somewhat terrified and shouted promptly, Mr. Xian, hey, Wu Dao did harm your disciple, but he wasn't the one that killed him. Your disciple's death had nothing to do with our Cloud Sea Asgard. You're right. I had intended to kill all 14 of your Eternal Realm experts, but I've decided to give you a discount, so I'll only kill half of them." After saying that, he immediately made his move. In an instant, a strikingly cold sword light appeared, filling up the entire area. This sword light was extremely dazzling, but it also looked slow and stodgy, as if it possessed no power at all. It didn't seem like anything special, but this slow attack shocked all the Eternal Realm experts and their disciples. Everyone had fallen into a trance. They had become immersed in this brilliant sword light and seemed to have forgotten everything. The 14 Eternal Realm experts of Cloud Sea Asgard also went numb at that moment. The sword light seemed to attack them, but none of the 14 experts tried to fight back. Like a fool, they all went numb, allowing the sword light that appeared before them to freely dance around them. Swish! The sound of a sword being sheathed was heard as the sword light finally dissipated. The experts and disciples in the surroundings slowly came back to their senses. Once they regained their senses, they looked forward and became completely stunned. Among the people of Cloud Sea Asgard, the 14 Eternal Realm experts still stood there in a scattered manner, but 7 of them were missing their heads. 7 heads instantly flew up into the air at the same time. With one sword, 7 of 14 Eternal Realms experts had been instantly killed. Xian Yi gently waved his sleeve as the sweeping sword essence faded away. His face still looked indifferent, as if what happened just now had nothing to do with him. The whole area remained completely silent, a deathly silence, and this silence hung over the area for a long time. Chapter 718, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 3. Chapter 718, Xian Yi's Anger, Part 3. The whole area was completely silent except for the sounds of the 7 ice-cold corpses slowly hitting the ground. The 7 people who survived, swallowed, and stood there with their eyes wide opened due to their extreme fear. Watching this, the experts of the other sects were filled with shock. They all knew that the ancient sect palace master, Xian Yi, was terrifying and domineering, but nobody knew how powerful he really was. In the beginning, they believed that Xian Yi might be strong enough to fight the 14 Eternal Realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard, but they thought it would be a tough fight. They didn't expect him to kill them with only one attack. With only one attack, he had killed 7 experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. That incredible sword move frightened everyone. Apparently, Xian Yi was still holding back his strength, or else all 14 of them would be dead. Such terrifying strength. Such overwhelming strength. After seeing his strength, some of them started to wonder if Xian Yi had broken through and become a supreme Tao Master. It seemed to them that only a legendary Tao Master could perform such an incredible sword move. "Go back and tell your palace master, nobody kills my disciples, no matter how badly they want to. You should be grateful that my disciple was not actually killed by your Cloud Sea Asgard. Otherwise, humph." Xian Yi's voice reverberated throughout the area. Although Xian Yi didn't finish, everyone understood what he meant. The 7 people survived, including Lady Red, were suppressing their fear deep down inside of them, not daring to say a thing. They promptly told it in secret to Yun Fan, the great elder, and the palace master behind them. "Cloud Sea Asgard has already given me an explanation. Now it's the Immortal Dynasties and Boundless Demon Sect's turn." Xian Yi looked towards the experts of the Immortal Dynasty and Boundless Demon Sect. Those 2 big groups. Fear swept over these experts when they saw him staring at them. The uncaged and untamed middle-aged man who led Immortal Dynasty promptly said, "Mr. Xian, the Immortal Dynasty didn't hurt your disciple." "Neither did our Boundless Demon Sect," said the people of the Boundless Demon Sect. At this time, they absolutely would not dare to admit that they had intended to hurt Jian Wushuang. As for Chao of the Boundless Demon Sect, who had actually chased after Jian Wushuang, he was definitely the most frightened one. He was terrified that he would be got caught by Xian Yi the same way Wu Dao was, then controlled and forced to tell the truth. If that happened, he would definitely meet a very miserable end. If you two magnates give me 10 million divine gems each, I will not get to the bottom of this. As for each of the other top sects, you should give me 1 million divine gems. Anyone have a problem with that? Xian Yi's voice grew cold. Okay, no problem. No problem. The Immortal Dynasty, Boundless Demon Sect, and those top sects in the area were totally overawed by Xian Yi's strength, so no one dared to go against him. They knew that Xian Yi was taking advantage of the situation. However, they did have the ulterior motives. After all, they did make plans against Jian Wushuang. The Immortal Dynasty and Boundless Demon Sect even fought with him, so they definitely did not want to face a situation similar to the experts of Cloud Sea Asgard and have half of their experts killed. Within a short amount of time, these sects brought out enough divine gem to pacify Xian Yi. Okay, let's forget it. If anyone has any complaints, feel free to tell them to come find me. After he said that, he gave a profound look toward the 7 remaining people in Cloud Sea Asgard and left with a wave of his sleeves. While watching Xian Yi leave, the experts finally sighed in relief. Even the 8 Eternal Realm experts from the ancient sect felt a sense of relief. Palace Master Destruction said immediately, I finally know why Xian Yi is not interested in the opportunities in the Eternal Zone. He is so powerful that he is not inferior to Dao Master. So, why would he care these small benefits? Exactly. Immortal nodded and continued. I knew Xian Yi was powerful, but I didn't know he had reached such a high level. No wonder the other sects are so afraid of him. I'm sure Cloud Sea Asgard is full of regret now that they've lost 7 Eternal Realm experts. Cloud Sea Asgard did suffer a big loss. I suppose they will try to cause trouble for Xian Yi in the future. Cause trouble for Xian Yi? Humph. I don't think any of them have the guts to do that except for their palace master himself. Xian Yi is quite crafty, though. He personally killed people in Cloud Sea Asgard, but he only extorted the other 2 magnates for 10 million divine gems each. So he didn't offend them as badly as he did Cloud Sea Asgard. And Cloud Sea Asgard won't be able to do anything to him on their own. The surrounding experts from each sect continued to talk about what just happened while constantly glancing towards the remaining 7 Eternal Realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard. In the area where Cloud Sea Asgard had gathered, Lady Red's face had turned dark red because of all the bizarre looks she felt coming from her surroundings. At this moment, a message token in her possession reacted. Of course, the owner of this token was their Palace Master. Palace Master has sent a message. Lady Red immediately looked at the token as her eyes sparkled with excitement. But the message their Palace Master sent was very simple, only 4 words. Don't upset Xian Yi. Lady Red and the other people in Cloud Sea Asgard were shocked by this message. Xian Yi killed 7 of our people. Why did the Palace Master warn us not to upset him instead? Why is he so afraid of Xian Yi? Lady Red was a bit confounded. After a while, she sighed and said, Let's go. The remaining people from Cloud Sea Asgard slowly left, along with their disciples. Naturally, the experts of the other sects left as well. The trip to the Eternal Zone had come to an end. However, the incident with Xian Yi killing 7 Eternal Realm experts from Cloud Sea Asgard quickly spread throughout all of the Firmament territory and continued to be a topic of discussion for quite a long time. However, it wasn't just because of Xian Yi's anger that Jian Wushuang's death had become a heated topic among the experts in the Firmament territory. Quite a few people were sorry for Jian Wushuang because he was such a peerless genius. However, as one of the main characters of this incident, Xian Yi was sitting on the 2nd floor of the Sword Tower, leisurely brewing his tea. On a table close to the wall, there was a floating shadow which appeared to be a sword spark. It was the sword spark that had been taken from Jian Wushuang's sword heart with a special method when Xian Yi took him as his personal disciple. This sword spark had not vanished, which meant that Jian Wushuang was still alive. Chapter 719, Pure Soul Aura. Chapter 719, Pure Soul Aura. While the outside world was being turned upside down because of Jian Wushuang's death, there was also something happening at the inner layer of the Eternal Zone. There were a total of 10 tribes in the Demon God clan, and there were over 10,000 people in each of the tribes. The tribes lived together in a friendly manner and almost never battled amongst themselves. There were numerous houses, built completely out of stone, on the endless mountains in 8th tribe. Even the gate was made of stone. Guyang, who carried a longbow, stepped into 8th tribe with Jian Wushuang on his back. "Brother Guyang, are you back from hunting?" "Guyang, who is the man on your back?" All the clansmen in the tribe were very curious. "Father, who are you carrying?" A young man with a burly figure walked up to Guyang. "This clansman is seriously injured." "Go get Elder Ing," said Guyang. "Okay." The young man nodded and then immediately went to look for Elder Ing. Guyang took Jian Wushuang to a stone house and placed him on the stone bed that was inside. A short while later, the young man came in with a woman who had a weathered face and a dragon head crutch. "Elder Ing," Guyang spoke humbly. Elder Ing replied. Then she walked to the bed and looked at Jian Wushuang with a slightly cloudy gaze. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's consciousness had already slipped into a coma. "This kid!" Elder Ing stared at Jian Wushuang. Then her eyes slightly narrowed before suddenly opening wide as a bright light flashed through her eyes. "Elder Ing, what's wrong?" Guyang asked in confusion. "The kid has very pure soul aura," she said. "His soul aura is very pure." Guyang's face changed as he stared at Jian Wushuang in surprise. "Soul aura is the essence of our clansmen. The purer the soul aura is, the stronger his bloodline is. Besides, with such a pure soul aura, his bloodline is definitely comparable to the 10th generation or maybe even higher." Elder Ing was amazed, but there was also a look of pleasant surprise on her face. "What, the 10th generation?" Guyang could not help being surprised. Their population was the Ancient God clan. As for the Demon God clan, it was what the experts from the Firmament territory called them. Their ancestor was the Ancient God, someone with enough power to destroy a whole world. They all had the bloodline of the Ancient God, but after their ancestor disappeared, his bloodline became thinner and thinner as it passed down from generation to generation. They had lived in the Eternal Zone for numerous years, but the bloodline had been passed down for hundreds of generations, and the number of clansmen had reached 1,000,000. However, the bloodline of the ancient gods continued to grow thinner. As of now, in their Ancient God clan, after baptism, 9 out of 10 clansmen could only become a copper-armored ancient god, and some, even after the baptism, could not awaken their bloodline to become an ancient god at all. Only a very small number of people could awaken the silver-armored ancient god's bloodline. Gold-armored ancient gods were even rarer. There were only about 20 gold-armored ancient gods among the 10,000 people in the tribe. This was because the bloodline of the ancient gods was getting thinner and thinner. Just as Elder Ing said, the ancient god bloodline that was possessed by the clansmen of the 10th generation was extremely thick. However, there were few people who were within 10 generations among the ancient god clan in the Eternal Zone. With such a pure soul aura and such a thick bloodline, there'll be no problem for this kid to become a silver-armored ancient god after baptism. He even has a good chance of becoming a gold-armored ancient god, said Elder Ing. Gold-armored ancient god. Guyang was moved. There were under 20 gold-armored ancient gods in the whole tribe, and each one of them was very old and highly respected. The birth of every gold-armored ancient god was a source of great joy for the entire ancient god clan. "Where did you meet this kid? Which tribe is he from?" asked Elder Ing. "I don't know which tribe he is from. I only know that he is called Jian Wushuang. When I was hunting outside, I happened to meet him while he was being chased by an outsider. I saved him and brought him back with me, said Guyang. Jian Wushuang. Elder Ing frowned. Our ancient god clan mostly use the ancient surnames. Although some of us use other surnames, there are very few. Besides, I have never heard of anyone who once used Jian as their surname. However, no matter which tribe he comes from, since he has such pure soul aura, he must be a clansman of our ancient god clan. It's impossible for that to be wrong. Guyang, go outside and leave this kid to me, said Elder Ing. Aye. Guyang nodded and gave Jian Wushuang one more glance before leaving. Only Jian Wushuang and Elder Ing were left in the stone house now. Elder Ing sat down beside the stone bed and stretched out her arm. Upon closer inspection, a bulge could be seen moving slowly. A moment later, an extremely ferocious-looking bug with countless tentacles climbed out of her arm. Jiu, heal the kid and give him a drop of the essence blood you've stored. Elder Ing opened her mouth. Hearing this, the ferocious bug on her arm stared up at Elder Ing with an obvious look of astonishment. Essence blood had great effects, and it could only save one drop every 10,000 years, so it was very precious. Normally, it wouldn't give it to anyone, but Elder Ing had asked it to give one drop to Jian Wushuang. Although it was surprised, it obeyed Elder Ing. It quickly climbed onto Jian Wushuang's arm and spat out a drop of essence blood. The moment this drop of blood entered Jian Wushuang's body, his body couldn't help absorbing it. After it was absorbed, the wounds in his body began to recover at an alarming speed. Even Jian Wushuang's arm that had been cut by the black-robed elder and Chao began to repair itself at this moment. It was very clear that this drop of essence blood was so effective that it might even be able to save someone who was at death's door. What's more, Jian Wushuang's vitality soared once he finished completely absorbing this drop of essence blood. If the life of a skyscraping realm cultivator was 10,000 years, then the current Jian Wushuang could live for more than 50,000 years. After another moment, Jian Wushuang's broken arm had been completely restored, and the majority of the injuries to his body had also been cured, but the essence blood could not completely restore his exhausted spiritual power. On the stone bed, Jian Wushuang's consciousness began to come back and his eyes slowly opened. The moment he opened his eyes, he saw Elder Ing next to the bed. "Kid, are you awake?" Elder Ing was looking at him softly. Chapter 7:20 The Descendant of the Militant Warrior. Chapter 7:20 The Descendant of the Militant Warrior. Is this the demon god tribe? Jian Wushuang looked around as he thought back to how he met Guyang, who then carried him back to the tribe. We're the 8th tribe. I'm an elder of 8th tribe, and you can call me Elder Ing. Elder Ing looked at him. You were badly hurt, so I asked Jiu to give you a drop of essence blood. With that, you should be mostly healed now. Just then, the extremely ferocious bug with many tentacles on her arm raised its head and looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked back at it. Although he didn't know how precious its essence blood was, he was well aware of how severe his injury was. Under normal circumstances, even if he had used a general elixir or treasure, it would have been impossible for him to recover without half a month. But that drop of essence blood from the bug had almost completely healed him in a very short time. "Thank you," said Jian Wushuang. "We're of the same clan, so you don't need to be so polite." Elder Ing smiled and continued. "By the way, I heard from Guyang that your name is Jian Wushuang. Which tribe are you from?" "Tribe." Jian Wushuang slightly narrowed his eyes, then shook his head and said, "I'm not from any of the tribes." He didn't intend to continue lying. Previously, in the outer layer, he could leave immediately if he needed to, so he wasn't afraid of what would happen if the demon gods investigated his identity. But now he was inside a house that belonged to the demon god clan. He was in one of the demon god clan's tribes. At this moment, if he continued lying to Elder Ing and said that he was from 7th tribe or one of the other tribes, then it would be unwise. "Not from a tribe?" Elder Ing cocked her brows. Then you must be related to one of those militant warriors who wander around, constantly putting their lives on the line. Militant warriors? Jian Wushuang was curious, but he remained unmoved on the surface. Our ancient god clan is innately militant and possesses an enormous battle intent due to the instincts passed down from their ancestor, the ancient god, Eldering said. But ever since our ancestor disappeared, we have been living here and have very little contact with the outside worlds. So there aren't many battles. Even when there is a battle, it is only a contest between clansmen. Some of the clansmen can't stand it, so they leave the tribes and enter the boundless wasteland on the other end of the world to fight against the fiercely violent wild beasts. Some of them die in the intense battles with the wild beasts, while some of them survive and continue wandering the line between life and death. As time goes by, most of these clansmen should have died. There ought to be very few clansmen who are still fighting with wild beasts in the boundless wasteland. We call these people militant warriors, and you should be a descendant of them. Oh, Jian Wushuang understood now. These militant warriors left their homeland and tribes, but they still possess our great ancestors' bloodline and are still clansmen of our ancient god clan. So you are as well. Elder Ing looked at Jian Wushuang while smiling and said, "Since you're already here, you can stay in our tribe for a while. Also, I don't think you have gone through the demon god baptism before, have you?" No. Jian Wushuang shook his head slightly. Our tribes will collectively perform a demon god baptism every once in a while. At that time, the clansmen of our tribes who have reached the baptism requirements will have their ancient god bloodline awakened through the baptism. If you're strong enough, you can come with us. After all, only when you awaken the ancient god bloodline can you truly be counted as the offspring of the ancient god, said Eldering. What are the requirements for baptism? Jian Wushuang couldn't help asking. Under normal circumstances, you only need to be an adult. Of course, those clansmen who have an extremely pure soul aura and lineage can awaken their bloodline in advance. And your lineage definitely meets the requirements, said Eldering. Oh. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and asked, "How long will it be before the next baptism?" "There's an adult baptism every year, so the next baptism will be very soon," Eldering said and smiled. Jian Wushuang nodded. After that, he asked some more questions which were simple common sense to the clansmen who had lived in the tribes. Eldering answered his questions patiently. Jian Wushuang had also asked Gu Qiong some questions before, so he already had some knowledge of the ancient god clan that was living here. At the same time, he also gained a new understanding of the Eternal Zone. It wasn't just the ancient god clan. Wild beasts also lived in the Eternal Zone. Those wild beasts lived in the boundless wasteland at the other end of the world, occupying half of the territory, while the ancient god clan occupied the other half. The holy place of the ancient god clan covered a vast territory in the very center of the Eternal Zone. However, ever since their ancestor, the ancient god, disappeared, the holy place had been completely sealed and no one had been able to even set foot in it. The ancient god clan had never left the Eternal Zone, even after so many years. Because of the ancient god bloodline, the ancient god clansmen became ancient gods through baptism after they became adults, but a small portion of them had a very thin bloodline, so they couldn't awaken their own bloodline no matter how hard they tried. Only when their bloodline was really awakened could they be considered as ancient gods. Even so, there were strong and weak ancient gods. Unlike the human experts in the eternal world, the ancient gods were not divided into the skyscraping realm, divine realm, eternal realm, and so on. Their realm was determined by the number of quadrangular stars on their chest. The moment their bloodline was awakened, quadrangular stars would naturally condense on their chests. If there was one star, they would be a one-star ancient god. A one-star ancient god was equal to a human who was in the divine realm. If they condensed 2 stars, they would be a 2-star ancient god, which was equal to the eternal realm for human beings. If they condensed 3 stars, they would be the same as a supreme Tao master among the humans. There were 10 tribes and millions of people in the ancient god clan. Up till now, 1-star ancient gods at least occupied more than 90% of the population, and there were also quite a few 2-star ancient gods. Generally, the number of 2-star ancient gods in each tribe exceeded 3 figures. In other words, there were at least 100 2-star ancient gods that were comparable to the eternal realm for human beings. As for 3-star ancient gods, Elder Ing did not say much about them, but Jian Wushuang could roughly guess that there was more than 1 3-star ancient god in the ancient god clan. After knowing this, even Jian Wushuang couldn't help being shocked by the awesomeness of the ancient god clan. 99% of the 10,000 clansmen already had their bloodline awakened. Once their bloodline was awakened, even the weakest clansman was a 1-star copper-armored ancient god who could compete with an advanced divine realm expert. There were more than 100 2-star ancient gods in each tribe. 10 tribes added up to over 1,000 2-star ancient gods which could compete with eternal realm experts. Could all the eternal realm experts of all sects in the whole firmament territory even be able to reach half of this number? Chapter 721. The Strength of the Ancient God Clan. Chapter 721. The Strength of the Ancient God Clan. The Ancient God Clan is quite powerful. Jian Wushuang was greatly shocked in the heart. Given the overall strength of the Ancient God Clan, it wasn't an exaggeration to say they surpassed the entire firmament territory. However, because of certain reasons, the Ancient God Clansmen could not leave the Eternal Zone, so they had little contact with the outside world. It was only during those 10 days when the outsiders came down every 100 years that they would have any contact with experts and disciples from the firmament territory. The Ancient God Clan took advantage of this to hone some of the clansmen's abilities through contact with the outsiders. But they would only send the 1-star ancient gods who had just awakened to the outer layer to fight with those divine realm disciples. As for the 1-star ancient gods who had previously awakened and possessed great strength, they never took part in the fights. If it was not for the purpose of honing the clansmen's abilities, the firmament territory experts and disciples who had broken into the Eternal Zone wouldn't even be able to struggle against the ancient God Clan. Kid, take your time and rest up. If you need something, you can look for Guiyang, said Elder Ing before leaving. Jian Wushuang thanked her again. After seeing Elder Ing leave the stone house, he heaved a long sigh of relief. The 10-day deadline is already up, so it's very likely that the entrance to the Eternal Zone has completely closed. Jian Wushuang murmured as he felt a bit bitter. He was being chased, so he had no choice but to escape to the inner layer of the Eternal Zone. As a result, he was saved, but he missed the opportunity to return to the firmament territory. Once the 10-day deadline passed, the Eternal Zone would be sealed again. As for when it would reopen, it would be 100 years from now. According to what Elder Ing had just said, the clansmen of the Ancient God Clan had no way to leave the Eternal Zone. In other words, he couldn't leave any time soon. If he wanted to leave, he would have to wait for 100 years. 100 years. Jian Wushuang couldn't help shaking his head as he smiled bitterly. However, he did not think much about it. After all, he was already here, so he could only act accordingly. According to Elder Ing, the purity of soul aura determines the concentration of the ancient God bloodline. My soul aura is very pure, and my ancient God bloodline is very thick, so I can at least become a silver-armored ancient god. Jian Wushuang mused as he drummed his fingers on the stone bed. He still didn't know if his soul aura had changed, or if he really possessed the bloodline of the ancient God Clan. He was also not sure that he could successfully awaken the bloodline and become an ancient god after entering the baptismal pool, but it was obvious that he still wanted to try. I have to try. As long as I can awaken the ancient god bloodline and become an ancient god, even if it is just the lowest copper-armored ancient god, it is enough to enhance my strength. Jian Wushuang thought privately. However, the fly in the ointment was that once his bloodline was really awakened and he became a one-star ancient god, his own realm would have a breakthrough from the skyscraping realm to the divine realm. A breakthrough was a good thing, but Jian Wushuang did not want to break through so early because the skyscraping realm was the best stage for increasing his comprehension. Once he broke through and reached the divine realm, he might gain other abilities, but his speed of comprehension would definitely be greatly weakened. I don't need to hurry to do that. Since I'm forced to stay in the ancient god clan for 100 years, I'll have lots of opportunities to enter this baptismal pool. Before that, I can continue cultivating and wait to have the baptism in a dozen years, or even at the 99th year, Jian Wushuang thought. While sitting cross-legged on the bed, Jian Wushuang swallowed some elixirs and began to recover his spiritual power. His spiritual power was still exhausted at present. After half a day, 30% of the spiritual power inside Jian Wushuang's body had barely recovered. After sensing that his strength was slowly recovering, Jian Wushuang was slightly relieved, but there was a sharp light in the depths of his eyes that would make people tremble. Cloud Sea Asgard, Immortal Dynasty, Boundless Demon Sect. He clenched his hands. This trip to the Eternal Zone could be said to be the closest to death he had ever been. Thankfully, he was calm and decisive, which barely saved his life. In addition, he was forced to stay in the Eternal Zone, and he couldn't leave for the next 100 years. But the worst part was that Gu Qiong died because of him. All of this was caused by the three magnates. I have never provoked the three magnates, but they have spared no effort to kill me. Very well, you wait and see. Killing intent exploded in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He always drew a clear distinction between kindness and hatred. He wouldn't attack others unless others attacked him. Since the three magnates had provoked him, he would not be kind to them. Of course, he was trapped in the Eternal Zone and couldn't leave for now, so he wasn't a threat to them for the time being, but the situation would be different in 100 years. Time flew by, and 3 days had passed since Jian Wushuang was brought to the 8th tribe. After 3 days, Jian Wushuang's spiritual power had been completely restored. He even managed to create another slaughter body, since the previous one was killed by Chao. As long as his two original bodies weren't both killed, the one which was killed could be recreated by the other. Jian Wushuang's state had returned to the peak once again. While sitting cross-legged on the bed, Jian Wushuang was wholeheartedly meditating on Tao when there was a loud noise from outside. Jian Wushuang's face changed slightly, and he opened his eyes. Then he walked out of the house. Immediately after walking outside, while standing in front of the door, he saw lots of clansmen gathered together in a vast open place, and two young men fight intensely at the center. Jian Wushuang knew one of the young men. He was Gulan, the son of the silver-armored ancient god Guyang, who carried Jian Wushuang back to the tribe. Gulan had not reached adulthood yet and still hadn't had his baptism to awaken his ancient god bloodline. The other young man who fought with him also hadn't awakened his bloodline. While watching the fierce fight between the two men, Jian Wushuang walked toward the crowd. The fierce fight was quickly over, and the winner was Gulan. Haha, who is not convinced? Feel free to come forward and fight with me. Gulan had an antagonistic expression as he looked around, and his loud, hearty laughter sounded throughout the open space. There were quite a few clansmen who also hadn't awakened their bloodline around him. But these people just looked at one another without the intention of fighting. Among the clansmen who hadn't awakened their bloodline and become real ancient gods, Gulan was obviously the strongest. Chapter 7:22 Challenging. Chapter 7:22 Challenging. What? No one has the courage? Seeing no one dare to stand out, Gulan had a larger smile. Then he noticed Jian Wushuang next to him, and his eyes immediately lit up. Jian Wushuang. Gulan turned to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang raised his head in surprise. I heard from Eldering that you're a descendant of the militant warriors. Gulan paused and then continued. I heard about the stories of the militant warriors long ago. They dared to break into the boundless wilds and fought with the wild's beasts, because they constantly adventure on the edge of life and death. They are much stronger than the clansmen at the same level. I've always greatly admired them, but I have never been fortunate enough to meet any of them, until I finally met you, a descendant of the militant warriors. You were injured at that time, so I could not challenge you, but you seem to have recovered. Do you have the courage to fight with me now? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang forced a smile. He just came here to watch the fierce battle, but he never expected that Gulan would challenge him directly. But Jian Wushuang understood that the clansmen were aggressive by nature. Even though they did not have any conflicts of interest, they often fought with each other. Since he was said to be a descendant of the militant warriors, it was normal for the members of the 8th tribe to challenge him. How about it? Are you brave enough? Gulan said, Of course. If you want, I'll fight with you. Jian Wushuang's eyes became sharp. He also wanted to know the real strength of the ancient god clansmen. Hearing Jian Wushuang's answer, Gulan laughed, and the other clansmen immediately opened up a path for him. Jian Wushuang walked forward and stood in front of Gulan. Jian Wushuang, be careful. Gulan reminded him. Then he suddenly stamped his feet heavily. Bang! The ground under his feet immediately cracked. Gulan turned into a phantom and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. He snorted and clenched his huge fist, releasing an explosive power. His punch seemed to be able to destroy a huge mountain. It caused an intense blast that carried terrifying power. However, Jian Wushuang did not dodge Gulan's punch. He stood there and also threw a pure punch, but he only exerted 70% of his strength because he was unclear Gulan's real strength. Even so, he had nearly reached the offensive power of a divine realm expert because of his cultivation method and strong body. The two huge fists quickly collided. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jian Wushuang felt that his right hand go numb and a pain passed along his arm. He was even knocked backward. Gulan hasn't experienced baptism, so he's not an ancient god yet. According to the levels of human warriors, he's just a skyscraping realm expert. How can he be so physically strong? Jian Wushuang felt it so incredible. He knew that the ancient god clansmen were best at physical strength. But he did not expect that Gulan would be so powerful before he became an ancient god and be much stronger than ordinary divine realm experts. Whoosh! Gulan approached Jian Wushuang again and punched with both fists this time. Bang! 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 Each punch rushed towards Jian Wushuang with a terrifying power. Jian Wushuang exerted himself to resist, but he was overpowered by Gulan in terms of physical strength, so he was forced to retreat. Ha, Jian Wushuang, you're just SOSO as a descendant of the militant warriors. I only used 80% of my power to defeat you, Gulan laughed. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He suddenly turned his palm upside down, and a long sword appeared in his palm. It was not the Emperor's sword, though. It was just an ordinary one. Oh, are you going to use your weapon? Humph, it makes no difference, Gulan sneered. We'll see. Jian Wushuang smiled confidently. Gulan appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and released another violent punch towards him. However, Jian Wushuang did not punch back this time. Instead, he waved the long sword, causing an immaterial vortex to instantly appear. Gulan's fist landed on the vortex, but was continuously weakened by it. In the end, the power of his fist was completely dissipated. Gulan looked surprised. Before he could figure it out, Jian Wushuang swung the long sword casually once again. The sword light appeared to be slow, but it was so fast in Gulan's eyes, making him feel as if he could not dodge it. Gulan felt a little anxious and raised his fist to smash the sword light. Swoosh! He missed the sword light, and it continued forward, gliding over his shoulder and leaving a tiny sword scar. Damn it! Gulan's expression changed. He turned back and struck forward with his knee. However, Jian Wushuang dodged it easily and swept out with his long sword, causing another vortex to appear. The vortex surrounded Gulan and slammed him against the ground, but Gulan immediately struggled to stand up. One more time. Gulan shouted and put on a pair of Divin-level red boxing gloves, which could enhance his offensive power. Jian Wushuang just stood there, swinging his long sword casually to resist Gulan's attacks and leaving some scars on him. He's too slow and clumsy. His attack method is also too simple and predictable. He has nothing but brute force, Jian Wushuang thought, shaking his head. Gulan was physically strong, but weak in other aspects, especially in close combat. Perhaps because he had not experienced any life-and-death battles or mastered any skills. He was like a baby who could raise a heavy sword but was unable to display its full power. Jian Wushuang just waved his sword casually to resolve his attacks with ease, and even teased him. Chapter 7:23 Gu Changfeng. Chapter 7:23 Gu Changfeng. Yes, he was teasing him. The clansmen around also discovered it. Jian Wushuang was teasing Gulan. He just stood there and did not move forward at all. Okay, that's enough, a man suddenly said. Gulan stopped attacking after hearing the voice, even though he was unwilling. Brother Feng. Gulan turned to face the man. Jian Wushuang also looked at him. This young man with a sturdy body and a handsome face was more than 2 meters tall, and he held a black spear in his hand. The other clansmen looked at him with a hint of worship. The young man directly came to Gulan and said in a low voice, I told you before that your attacks are too simple and that you should adventure in our tribe's underground palace more often. But you always believed that physical strength is more important. Now you're paying the price for it, right? Upon hearing this, Gulan's face flushed with embarrassment, but he could not refute his words. He was indeed defeated due to his lack of combat skills. The underground palace mentioned by the young man was an exclusive place for the clansmen to practice their combat skills. Humph! The young man snorted and turned to Jian Wushuang. A smile appeared on his face before he said, I'm Gu Changfeng, brother of Gulan. I just watched you fight with Gulan. You have exceptional swordsmanship and impressive fighting experience. You deserve your title as a descendant of the militant warriors. Could you please fight with me? Jian Wushuang raised his head and glanced at Gu Changfeng, but he did not directly assent. Jian Wushuang, Brother Feng is the strongest among the clansmen of the 8th tribe who haven't awakened their bloodline yet. His bloodline is also the purest. After he reaches adulthood and enters the baptismal pool, he can definitely become a silver-armored ancient god or even a gold-armored ancient god, Gulan said. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He was very interested in what Gulan just said. Since the lifespan of the ancient gods was extremely long, it usually took a clansman more than 1,000 years to enter adulthood. Therefore, many of the clansmen in the 8th tribe had not awakened their bloodline yet. Since Gu Changfeng ranked first among them, he certainly possessed extraordinary strength. At the very least, he was much stronger than Gulan. Since that is so, please, Jian Wushuang said, be careful. Compared to Gulan, I'm stronger and have better combat skills. Gu Changfeng looked at Jian Wushuang with a trace of excitement in his eyes. He had only heard of the militant warriors, but never really met any of them. He knew that the militant warriors constantly fought with the wild beasts, so they were experienced and had far more excellent fighting skills than the ordinary clansmen. He was shocked by the swordsmanship Jian Wushuang had displayed just now. He looked forward to sparring with Jian Wushuang. I'll start. As Gu Changfeng shouted, he thrust forward with the black spear. The tip of the spear had a cold glow, even in the sunlight. It was silent, like a poisonous snake striking out from a hole in the ground. So fast! Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was quite surprised by the speed of Gu Changfeng's spear stroke. Gu Changfeng was indeed much stronger than Gulan. Jian Wushuang dared not underestimate Gu Changfeng anymore. With a twist of his wrist, he directly swung the long sword toward the spear. When the sword and spear collided, Jian Wushuang immediately found that his sword, which should have had the edge, was pushed back by the spear, as Gu Changfeng's power was at least twice that of Gulan's full power. The spear's terrifying force directly knocked back Jian Wushuang's sword and then continued to stab towards him. Jian Wushuang stepped backwards to dodge the spear. Gulan's eyes sparkled. Then he suddenly shifted the tip of the spear. It happened in the blink of an eye, which was completely caught Jian Wushuang off guard. Not bad. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a hint of excitement. After the first round of fighting, he already realized that Gu Changfeng's ability in close combat was much stronger than many ancient sect disciples who were proficient in close combat. His spearmanship was also excellent. However, his comprehension of the Tao was slightly insufficient. But his incredible physical strength could completely make up for his shortcoming in Tao comprehension. It seems that I have to use a few tricks if I want to defeat him. Jian Wushuang smiled and casually struck the spear's body directly with his sword. The spear tip, which had been close to Jian Wushuang's body, was deflected to the side and missed its target. This, Gu Changfeng was stunned and glanced at Jian Wushuang. He never expected that Jian Wushuang would be able to dodge his spear in this manner. Then, Jian Wushuang began to exert the full ability of his swordsmanship. He hacked with his long sword faster and faster, with each sword stroke being simple and pure but exquisite. Gu Changfeng was quickly surrounded by sword shadows. What? This swordsmanship. Gu Changfeng parried Jian Wushuang's sword strokes in haste, but he gradually failed to keep up as they became faster and faster. Gu Changfeng's face darkened. He exerted himself to stab his long spear forward. The might and incredible force even caused a burst of sound, causing Jian Wushuang to be shocked as he rushed backward in haste. Their combat stopped. Jian Wushuang, as a descendant of the militant warriors, your swordsmanship is really strong. Gu Changfeng sighed with admiration. Your spearmanship is also good. Jian Wushuang laughed, but he was quite surprised in his heart. He was definitely just as strong as a superior divine realm expert. Even though he did not use the power of his sword heart, he had used the full ability of his swordsmanship. Even with that, he still could not defeat Gu Changfeng. On the contrary, he was forced to retreat by the incredible force that Gu Changfeng released. That force, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. That final blow that Gu Changfeng released was much stronger than many advanced divine realm experts when they exerted their secret skills. But Gu Changfeng had not awakened his bloodline and become a real ancient god yet. In other words, he was equivalent to a human skyscraping realm expert, but his strength was already so amazing. It was unbelievable. Chapter 724, Star River. Chapter 724, Star River. If I don't use the power of my sword heart, I'm much weaker than him in physical strength. But his fighting skills are inferior to mine, and his spearmanship is not as good as my swordsmanship, either, Jian Wushuang thought. Both of them had their own advantages. Gu Changfeng was physically strong, while Jian Wushuang was excellent at fighting skills and swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang, your swordsmanship is very excellent, but your physical strength is lacking. I guess you haven't cultivated the ancient god secret skill yet? Gu Changfeng asked. Ancient god secret skill. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He had heard of the ancient god secret skill and that it could greatly enhance one's offensive power. It was the best among the secret skills which could enhance offensive power. 4. Sect experts in the firmament territory. There were 3 great opportunities in Eternal Zone: demon god essence, blood, life and death, baptismal pool, and the ancient god's secret skill. I knew it. Seeing Jian Wushuang shake his head, Gu Changfeng was not surprised. Through his fight with Jian Wushuang, he had already discovered that Jian Wushuang was physically weak. It was obvious that Jian Wushuang had not cultivated the ancient god's secret skill yet. Gu Changfeng, are you saying that you've cultivated the ancient god's secret skill? Jian Wushuang asked. He knew that those secret skills which could enhance one's offensive power were only accessible to divine realm experts in the firmament territory. Since he was just a skyscraping realm expert, he was not qualified to cultivate them yet. This obviously made him weaker than divine realm experts in physical strength. If it were not for his sword heart, he would not be able to compete with those advanced or superior divine realm experts, no matter how strong his swordsmanship was. After hearing his words, Gu Changfeng blinked and said, "Of course I've cultivated the ancient god secret skill. Actually, everyone in our tribe, including the clansmen who have not awakened their bloodline, have cultivated the ancient god secret skill. But the levels we have cultivated are different. For example, Gulan is cultivating level 2, which can enhance his physical strength 6 times. I'm cultivating level 3, which can directly enhance my physical strength 9 times. Really?" Jian Wushuang opened his eyes wide in astonishment. No wonder Gu Changfeng and Gulan were so strong physically. Both of them had cultivated the ancient god secret skill. The ancient god secret skill could also enhance one's power was available to the clansmen who had not awakened their bloodline. Since they can cultivate it at their current level, what about me? Jian Wushuang thought. Let's go. I will take you to the place where we cultivate the ancient god secret skill, Gu Changfeng said and laughed. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded his head eagerly, his eyes full of excitement. Jian Wushuang followed Gu Changfeng to a hillside. The entire 8th tribe was located on a huge mountain. On this hillside, there was a large black temple. It looked ancient, and one could feel its mysteriousness even before entering. There were several clansmen standing guard in front of the temple. When Gu Changfeng and Jian Wushuang approached the front gate, the clansmen immediately turned and faced them. However, they could feel the pure spiritual aura of Jian Wushuang, so they glanced at him and then allowed him to enter. Except for the bright gems shining in the slightly dim temple, there were no other decorations. Jian Wushuang, look at the surrounding stone walls, Gu Changfeng said. Jian Wushuang immediately fixed his eyes upon them and was shocked. He realized there were ancient words carved all over the stone walls. What's this? Jian Wushuang frowned as he began to read the ancient words. This is Star River, the ancient god secret skill I'm cultivating. You can start reading from there. Gu Changfeng pointed to a stone wall. Jian Wushuang looked up and found the first chapter of this secret skill. One of the 3 ancient god secret skills, the Star River secret skill. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Even though he knew about the existence of the ancient god secret skill, he did not expect there to be 3 types. The Star River secret skill that was carved on the stone walls in front of him was one of the 3 ancient god secret skills that could greatly enhance one's offensive power. With a trace of doubt, Jian Wushuang continued to read it. The Star River secret skill was divided into many levels, level 1, level 2, and the 11th level. This stone wall recorded the 11 levels of the Star River secret skill. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang had been completely taken aback. 11 levels, there are 11 levels. How could that be possible? Jian Wushuang looked at it in shock as he was roared wildly in his heart. He realized that the Star River secret skill was the one which Vice Palace Masterling you mentioned before. But Vice Palace Masterling, you said that this secret skill was comprised of 5 levels, each of which could enhance one's offensive power 3 times. After he cultivated to level 5, his offensive power would be enhanced 15 times. This secret skill was absolutely heaven-defying. After all, the secret skills in the firmament territory, or even the eternal world, could only enhance one's offensive power 10 times at most. Because of this secret skill attracted experts and disciples from all the sects in the firmament territory. All the experts wanted to obtain more ancient god essence blood and cultivate the highest level of the secret skill so that they could enhance their offensive power 15 times, which would be a huge advantage. However, none of them knew that the secret skill they were crazy for actually consisted of 11 levels instead of 5. Each level could enhance one's offensive power 3 times. After someone cultivated the highest level, his offensive power would be enhanced 33 times. Terrifying! What a terrifying secret skill! Jian Wushuang was completely taken aback. The experts in the firmament territory were already quite eager to obtain the first 5 levels. If they knew that there were 11 levels, they would definitely go crazy. Oh no! Jian Wushuang's look suddenly changed. He stared at level 11 and read it through quickly. He was even more astonished. The 11th level. No, the Star River secret skill has more than 11 levels. The 11th level isn't the end of the Star River secret skill. Chapter 7, 25, Level 3. Chapter 7, 25, Level 3. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes wide while his heart was beating violently. He asked, Gu Changfeng, does the Star River secret skill consist of more than 11 levels? Yes, it does. Gu Changfeng nodded his head and said, the higher levels of Star River and the other 2 ancient god secret skills have higher requirements for the bloodline's purity and strength, so they are not carved in this temple. Only gold-armored ancient gods are qualified to cultivate them. What? Only gold-armored ancient gods are qualified? Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. Among the millions of ancient god clansmen, there were only about a dozen gold-armored ancient gods in each tribe. That was to say, only a few people were qualified to cultivate the other 2 ancient god secret skills and the higher levels of the Star River secret skill. Nevertheless, the 11 levels of the Star River secret skill are sufficient for ordinary clansmen. For example, many 1-star silver-armored ancient gods in our tribe can cultivate level 9 of the Star River secret skill at most, Gu Changfeng said. Level 9. Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Level 9 of the Star River secret skill could enhance one's offensive power 27 times. It was already very amazing. That explains the incredible strength of the ancient god clansmen, in spite of their shallow comprehension in the Tao. Even the weakest 1-star copper-armored ancient god can compete with an advanced divine realm expert, Jian Wushuang sighed. When he was in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone, he had witnessed how the ancient gods fought with the human disciples in the divine realm. Those demon gods had poor Tao comprehension, but they possessed a terrifying level of strength. Any copper-armored ancient god was as strong as, or even much stronger than an advanced divine realm expert. Not to mention the fact that those ancient gods had just awakened their bloodline and gone to the outer layer to practice their combat skills. They would be comparable to superior divine realm experts in no time at all, even if they were just 1-star copper-armored ancient gods. That was due to their incredible physical strength, which resulted from their unique talent and, more importantly, the Star River secret skill. Once their bloodline was awakened, these 1-star ancient gods could cultivate level 6 or 7 of the Star River secret skill, which would enhance their offensive power 18 or 21 times. With such an advantage in physical strength, they would be completely terrifying at that time. Jian Wushuang, your bloodline is very pure, even purer than mine. Since I've cultivated up to level 3, you will definitely be able to as well. But that's the highest level we can cultivate. We can't cultivate level 4 or higher until we go through the baptism and awaken our bloodline, Gu Changfeng said. Level 3. Jian Wushuang nodded to himself. All right, you can cultivate by yourself. I'll wait for you outside, Gu Changfeng said before walking out of the temple. After that, Jian Wushuang was left alone in the temple. Jian Wushuang sat down cross-legged and looked at the stone wall in front of him with a hint of expectation. The human warriors in the Firmament territory are extremely eager to cultivate the Star River's secret skill, but they have to find ways to get ancient God Essence blood before cultivating it. The higher levels require more ancient God Essence blood. Can I cultivate the Star River's secret skill without the Essence blood? Jian Wushuang thought. He was not completely sure whether he really had the ancient God bloodline or not. But now he could find out by cultivating the Star River's secret skill. As long as he could cultivate 1 or 2 levels of the Star River's secret skill successfully without absorbing ancient God Essence blood, it would mean that he really did possess the ancient God bloodline and could definitely transform into an ancient God after experiencing the ancient God baptism. If he failed, it meant that he just had a similar spiritual aura to the ancient gods instead of possessing the ancient God's bloodline. Let me start. Jian Wushuang started to cultivate level 1 on the stone wall without making too much preparation. It was comparably the easiest one, so Jian Wushuang started cultivating it. However, he discovered that he had succeeded in cultivating it on the first try. Did I succeed? Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled with excitement. As he had succeeded without absorbing the ancient God Essence blood, it meant that he really did have the ancient God's bloodline. He began to practice level 2 without pause. The Star River secret skill was closely related to the ancient God bloodline, so the purer his bloodline was, the easier it would be for him to cultivate it. Obviously, Jian Wushuang possessed a very pure ancient God bloodline, so he cultivated the first 3 levels of the Star River secret skill in less than an hour. He stood up and activated the Star River secret skill while still inside the temple. It's so strong. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and felt his power increase by 9 times. At this moment, his eyes sparkled with excitement. Because he cultivated the heavenly creation skill, he had already been comparable to a divine realm expert in physical strength. Now that the Star River secret skill had enhanced his physical strength 9 times, he was even stronger than an ordinary divine realm expert in all aspects, even though he was still just a skyscraping realm expert. Now, even if I don't use my sword heart, I can compete with those superior divine realm experts. If I do use my sword heart, very few superior divine realm experts can defeat me, Jian Wushuang thought with a confident look. Of course, he was referring to the human superior divine realm experts in the Firmament territory. It would be different when he encountered special clans like the Ancient God clan. For example, the gold-armored Ancient God he met in the outer layer of the Eternal Zone. That 1-star gold-armored Ancient God had easily smashed Long Tao, the genius disciple of the Immortal dynasty, to death with a single hammer. With such terrifying strength, he was far stronger than superior divine realm experts. He was probably comparable to eternal realm experts. However, Jian Wushuang should still be weaker than that gold-armored Ancient God. The Star River secret skill can be cultivated to a higher level. Jian Wushuang looked at the stone walls eagerly, but then he shook his head. Unfortunately, I'm only in the skyscraping realm. I can't cultivate the higher levels until after the baptism, when I transform into an ancient God.